It's a new Saturday, and I remember when they said it's a Sabbath day, keep it holy. Depends on how you look at it. Sometimes Saturday may be the Sabbath day, it could be other days. But yeah, we're going to keep today not too holy. We're going to be a bit unholy because we are going to go very hard on the big issues of the week. And that happens only on ChannelOne television and on 97.3 CTFM. The show is The Big Issue. The name of the host is Umaru, Sanda. Amadu. And I have a very smart set of panelists that would help us dissect the big stories of the week. We'll talk about what's happening in the U.S. Ken Ofori-Atta is out of detention, but not on his way home. When is he going to come home? In Ghana, the mining concession has been given to the brother of the president, raising eyebrows. We'll talk about that. And then the energy crisis. America and Israel decides to bomb Iran. Yourself and myself, we are having to bear the brunt. Fuel prices going up. The government, the president called an emergency cabinet meeting to deal with that matter. We'll see the plan that they have put forth and how they intend to deal with that. So that and other issues we'll be talking about here on The Big Issue. If you want to join the conversation, go on Twitter. They call it X now. Elon Musk decided to change the name to X. It's not exciting to me, but yeah, what can you do? He owns the platform. Maybe I should go Truth Social. But on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can mention my handle at Umaru Sanda, or at City973, or at ChannelOne TV. Now you can use the hashtag The Big Issue. And if you write anything and put those elements in there, I'm sure to read your messages for you here on the show. Also, you can go on WhatsApp if that's your favorite platform, 0549 986 996. That's the WhatsApp number. 0549 986 996, and on the other network 020 444 7033. 020 444 70333. That is how you can reach us today. We want to hear your views as much as you be hearing our views. You are watching us on TV, you are listening to us on radio, you are following us online. This is The Big Issue. You're welcome back. This is The Big Issue on 97.3 CTFM and on ChannelOne television. I'm Umaru Sanda. Let me introduce for you now my guests in studio. Facing me directly this morning as though to cross-examine me or prosecute me is lawyer Amanda Clinton. I remember her in various portfolios, including the fact that she wanted to be GFA president. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
The GFA is looking for a coach. Are you, you wanted to be GFA president. If you were GFA president now, would you have sacked the coach or you would have kept him?
I would have looked at the numbers to see.
The numbers, he's abysmal. His performance.
Then I would have sacked him.
You would have sacked him.
Yeah.
Who would you have gone for? Would you have gone for a local coach, Ghana coach, or a foreign coach?
I would have gone for the best.
Where would you get the best from? Where does
according to our budget.
The budget. After the budget there, then you won't be able to bring anybody abroad because the money they are mentioned. Anyway, how have you been?
Very well.
Week starting well? That's nice. Duncan Amo is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. He represents you and our interests. Mr. Amo, you're welcome.
Sanda, thank you.
How is life treating you?
And not so bad, except that if I got the Black Star coaching job, I could consider.
You?
Thank you.
Can you even play 4-a-side or is it 5-a-side?
Playing, I don't, but watching, I do.
Yeah, but you can't.
The last time I played was secondary school. I used to be the coach initially, so I would do the selection and I never play.
Because you own the football?
In secondary school, you don't own, but truth is, I knew my capacity. Okay. I couldn't run. So I will select and they will go and run. Then one time I said I was going to join the field. Sanda, they blast the ball to one side, we run, they blast to another. I never touched the ball in the 5-10 minutes I was on the field. But my heart wanted to fall out, you know. So I heard the boys say, Duncan, out, out. I didn't wait for them to even shout the second one. I crossed to the other side. And that was the end of my footballing career. But
my footballing career, I think, ended way earlier. Because so those times when you're going to play and they divide into two teams. So say one team should remove their shirts and the other ones should not. That was a jersey, and I didn't like to remove my shirt. So in order not to even join...
You were slimmer than you are now.
Yeah, but I was shy about showing my body.
Okay.
So I decided not to join.
Then you won't play again.
Because I don't know which side I'll be on and whether we will be the ones to remove. And I was actually horrible at playing too, so Charlie. I used to sit in the library when they are doing inter-schools.
I was very good in my head, Sanda. When I see people, I go like, oh, I could kick better, but
then when
I got on there, I never kicked once, and I ran almost 5 kilometers within 5 minutes. So I ran away.
Sorry.
And have never tried again.
Kwesi Kwarteng is a lawyer. He's a member of the New Patriotic Party. He used to speak for the Ministry of Education. He tried to be MP and he didn't succeed. He also tried to be a campaign manager for a presidential candidate. That one too failed. So I don't know. But Kwesi Kwarteng, welcome to the big
All
issue.
forgiven Sanda.
But truth is a defense in defamation, and if what I've said is it's not defamation.
I think some of them are not accurate.
No, you.
I didn't try to be the campaign manager for.
Okay, you campaigned for someone who wanted to be president, and the person failed.
I was a spokesperson for Kenneth Japan. We will have.
You got Kenneth. I saw George Sapon post something, a logo with an elephant, a sitting elephant. Is Kenneth Japan breaking away from MPP?
No,
okay.
I don't have that brief.
Is there some movement you are forming?
No.
Some connected movement?
I'm here as a member of the MPP, so
okay.
Maybe you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, very possible. But George Sapon is still a member of the MPP, so I just
we are all members of the MPP, even including Kenneth Japan.
How has your week been?
So far, so good.
Great.
I'm fine. I'm doing well.
Okay. That's good. Let me go on Zoom. I would have 2 people on Zoom. Do I have Franklin Kujo, President of Money Africa? I do not have him, but I have Manasseh Azure Awuni. Manasseh Azure Awuni, because I'm introducing everybody, I think it's fair I introduce him too. He used to write articles and post them on the trees in GIJ when we were students. He became SRC president, and when he got married, there's a photo shoot of him where his wife was pushing him up a coconut tree. Manasseh Azure Awuni is an investigative journalist. You're welcome to the big issue, bro.
We will talk about that afterwards.
Bro, I want us to start with you actually this morning. Lots of back and forth around Kenneth Ofori-Atta, our former Minister of Finance. He's in the US. Someone sent me a message asking me, so does it mean that now that they say Ken is free, does it mean that our attempt to bring him home to face justice is not going to happen? There are people who are connecting his detention in the immigration camp to our attempt to bring him home to face trial. Can you unpack the issues for me around Ken Ofori-Atta and what the situation is now, and what are chances of having him come and stand here to stand trial would be, based on everything you know?
Well, from where we are told that the substantive hearing will be on the, I think, 27th or so of this month. And what is happening is that he's on bail. And I have heard that part of the reason is health conditions and the rest. But as to whether or not he will come, we seem to be very at least to some extent, convinced that on his own, he's unwilling to come down, but that is not entirely in his hands. The decision will be made by the court and the American authorities, who think that he has overstayed his welcome, I think the official welcome. The visa on which he came here expired on the 14th of February this year. And I think details of the visa shows that it's, I think, a B1, B2 visa. And then we are also aware that he's trying to file processes to have a longer period of stay. So everything now rests with the court and the immigration authorities and also the government of the United States. So we can't say much until the 27th when the substantive hearing takes place in the US courts. But obviously we know how he left. He came to seek treatment. And I think a similar thing happened in the case of Sedina Tamaklo Ationu. If you read details of how she left, she also told authorities that she was going to seek treatment. And in her case, the trial had begun And so we can say at the time she was leaving, she may have, she knew exactly what was at stake. In the case of Ken Ofori-Atta, and from what we know now, I can say that at the time he was leaving the country, the OSP had even not begun the investigation. There is ample evidence to that, even though the office is denying. And to be very specific, the report, the petition on Ken Ofori-Atta or against Ken Ofori-Atta and others on their role in the SML scandal was filed in 2023 December, but the OSP began the investigation towards the end of January 2025. So from the information available, he left and we're told he wanted to seek treatment, and at the time there was no attempt made whatever from any state institution to stop him, even though we later heard that others were not cooperating and all of that. So the reality as it is now, from everything we know, it doesn't seem like he would willingly submit himself to the ongoing charges and the court processes in Ghana. But we wait to see what happens on the 27th of this month when he has his day in court with his lawyers.
Okay, just to be sure, so for people who are connecting our attempt to get him back and the trial in the US, it's not related, is it? So that whatever happens in that court does not affect the attempt to bring him home.
Well, the state has filed for extradition, and we were told the last time he appeared in court that in future there was going to be the US authorities, that the Attorney General was going to even attach the extradition request we made to some of the court processes ongoing. So it is not very clear. The issues are linked. By now the American authorities know that he's wanted back home. So the extent of the connection is not very clear, but we cannot rule that out.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much. That's Manasseh. I'll come back because there's a second round of the conversation we'll be having, which has to do with the existence of the Special Prosecutor Office itself. That office has come up under lots of scrutiny. There were demands for it to be scrapped. In fact, there was an attempt to remove it through Parliament. The President intervened. Now, there's an attempt to demolish the OSP through the courts. That the President cannot intervene in. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll have a conversation around that. But I just want to get views of my panelists on the Ken Ofori-Atta matter. Let me start next with Amanda. Amanda, the legal processes involved. This is an immigration matter that Ken Ofori-Atta is facing in the US. It has nothing necessarily to do with our attempt to bring him home. Do you think he's prolonging matters and dragging issues unnecessarily, or this is his right that he's asserting and there's nothing wrong with what he's doing?
Well, I think he wants to follow, or his lawyer is saying that he's following due process, and that, you know, he has the option, and that he's not only politically exposed, but he's politically at risk in terms of coming back, because in their view, this is a political witch hunt. You know what I mean? So he has the right, I think, to fight his return. And what's going on in America is two different things. I think there's an immigration case, whether to deport him or not. Although he stayed his visa, he is simultaneously applying for a green card as well. And then the other route is whether to extradite him as per Ghana's request 3 months ago. And although there was talk that he hasn't formally been served, I think there was confirmation of his service in terms of the State Department received it or something. But it is quite sad because he's so high-ranking that he is out of the jurisdiction. But, you know, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. And you know, there might be political motivations involved. It's not for me to confirm that, but the climate of him coming back would be quite difficult because, again, I think NDC would satisfy their entire oral push by just having Ken Ofori-Atta here and saying that, you know, with this example, we've satisfied oral. So there's a lot of things at play, and he is undergoing treatment. And I honestly think, had he known where this was going, he wouldn't have gone to America, because I think that's the last place on earth, even though it has the best health care. But if you were really running from the law, I don't think necessarily he would have gone to America. Perhaps he would have gone to Cuba, where there's no extradition treaty.
Okay.
And
but where there's an economic blockade that it will be difficult for him to buy. I had a colleague who was doing medical school in Cuba. I used to send him stuff, including shoes and khaki trousers and things. I went by a cantonment and go to Ghana Post and send it to him. So Cuba there.
Yes, but at least he would have his freedom and no tax.
Freedom with hunger, that would be crazy. So how do these things work out? Do the states care about what we think before they deport him, or they're just going to base on and say, you applied for a visa, your visa is supposed to expire on this day, and you're supposed to come home, so they're just sending you back home?
Not necessarily.
Do they okay, so the law, you have practiced and lived in the UK, and similar to the US. Is the law a respecter of man in those countries, so that do they know who Ken Ofori-Atta is, that he's a big man in Ghana, owns a bank, owns businesses, is a former finance minister, or for them, he's just an ordinary guy who has come to US and they'll deal with him under the law?
I mean, they'll deal with him with the strength of his application. It's always about the application. And, you know, the US has a very unique immigration system whereby even if you're timed out because of a visa, if you've applied for a green card, you know what I mean, you're under application for a green card, and they don't even allow you, like when you apply for a green card, technically they don't even allow you to leave and come back until it's approved. You know, they've got a very different system when it comes to immigration. It's interesting, I think he applied under one of his children in terms of that's the route he took for the green card. But it might have gone faster had he done this before any of this happened, and he just went in as a high net worth individual. For instance, I think you can, if you kind of like quote unquote donate $500,000 or invest $500,000 upwards to $1 million, you can get a green card just like that. Mm-hmm. So he took a very protracted route, and is probably paying more in terms of legal fees and different things right now, whereas an expert could have advised him because of his risk, but maybe he didn't think he had risks, about which countries to go to that happen to have good medical care and they can't extradite you. I mean, that's one arm.
And for you, Cuba would have given him both.
I think Cuba, I would have survived in Cuba without a tag.
and there's good health care.
Yes, but the thing is, maybe he wasn't running from the law.
It's
I mean,
possible.
as he says,
Yeah.
he left beforehand.
Yeah.
He's always
He
been
sought permission before leaving.
Yes, and he's always been a law-abiding citizen. And, you know, it's just the political climate is pretty tough. And government has a lot to prove by bringing him back. And the NDC government, I think, has gone over and beyond in terms of extraditing every single person that the US has wanted in the last 12 months because they want Ken Ofori-Atta so bad.
So swapping, we are doing swapping.
We're doing swapping, but I think we've overdone it, number one. And number two, it might not help in terms of, let's see if they reciprocate.
Okay.
And secondly, even if we've done swaps, the US does have a lot of law and order whereby if the case can be made that this is a political witch hunt, you know, and, you know, they cite examples, evidence, and different things like that, then they may block the extradition because I don't think there exists a stronger case for political witch hunts than Ken Ofori-Atta's case, only because there's just been so much media attention, and so you could skewer the evidence towards that sort of media attention.
Okay. Let me bring in Kwesi. Is the Ken debacle a disgrace to our nation or to your party? There's a view that watching the man who used to hold our purse in the garments that he wore, coming to sit in court and begging that he wants to remain in Obiman. So when he was here and said we were a proud nation, that's like a national embarrassment. Do you hold that view, or you think no, it is his right to stay away from Ghana because Ghana is hostile to him and he should fight that to the end?
A very skewed question designed to solicit a certain form of response. But anyway, I'll attempt to give you a response without favoring the line that you want. First of all, Mr. Ofori-Atta is an adult, and I'm sure he understands his actions and inactions and the decisions that he's taking better than all of us. Of course, beyond it being an individual decision, as a former public servant, one will expect that when you were served in the capacity as a public servant, it also goes with an equal responsibility of accountability. And so even in the spirit of public accountability and transparency, the natural expectation is that you avail yourself as such. And so when it becomes quite difficult to get your availability and presence to respond to certain questions by the state that you serve, they increase the suspicions and the speculations in town. And so I'm sure it is a more even reason why for some time now, almost a year or a year and some couple of months, we keep discussing him. And of course, I mean, this is a personal decision. This is not a party's position yet. Probably if it was me, I will avail myself and maybe get closer on this matter. Because I'm a lawyer, but generally, the Constitution is very clear, as the Ghanaian is very clear, that even any accused person will be presumed innocent until proven guilty in a competent court of jurisdiction. So the fact that there are attacks surrounding your personality for your actions and inactions whilst you were in public office does not necessarily means that automatically when you get to Ghana, you will be convicted as such. And so, I mean, sometimes... Maybe
is a political capital that will be made out of his return, that it will be an embarrassment to his person and his party?
No, not necessarily. I think as at this level, it's not really a subject of the party per se. At this level, it has more to do with an individual decision. Because, mind you, Mr. Ofori-Atta was not the only person who served in the last administration. Currently, there are people who are facing different level of prosecutions that they are justifying themselves and having their day in court. The likes of Mr. Hanan of Buffer Stock. I think Mustafa Hamid is also in court. Chairman to me himself is also in court. Then if you look at our political history and the political realities that confronts the certain people, it's always been like that. The PR about how the former government has stolen, how they misused, misappropriated, abused the public purse, raped the public purse has always been there. So as soon as you accept the duty to serve in the capacity as a public officer, I think the first thing that you should also understand is that you will have to, when the time becomes due, to also avail yourself for questioning or accountability. But I mean, Umaru, thinking aloud, I'm also asking myself, assuming without admitting that in the first instance the state is not successful in its quest to bring Mr. Ofori-Atta back through the extradition processes that it initiated, what then becomes our second options? Could it be a case that, well, I mean, we've given you an opportunity to come and assist us in investigation, which legally he's not bound to. If you have a case against him, you may proceed to court and prosecute it. Of course, you were able to get a judgment in absentia, and I mean, somehow, his lawyers has been responding to some of the comments in town, and so his lawyers may also be there to defend him, assuming without admitting that his personality himself is not available. We may probably have to be looking at the state's present charges, if there is any, because whether or not Ofori-Atta is here, Ofori-Atta is never coming to support the state of the case, assuming even there is such case as such. And of course, when it comes to criminal investigations and prosecution, you do not necessarily need the accused person to even give you clues about what you want to use to prosecute him. It is left for you, the burden is left for you to prove whatever allegations or charges that you level against him in court. There are instances you bring accused person in court, he say you even talk, and he's not bound to talk. The burden of proof lies on you, the prosecutor. So I'm just looking at all the pros and cons, assuming without admitting we fail to successfully as a state be successful in the extradition process. What then becomes of our next option? Can we also explore the next option to even bring a closure to this matter? And of course, as you do that, you also play the devil's advocate. Let's say we go to court, the state is able to get judgment against him. I'm not so much sure, maybe Amanda may also help us with that clarity, whether there is any such agreement or treaty where we may be able to transfer the sentence, probably conviction or whatever sentence
for him to serve
in the US.
No. American jail is nice. Once in Sawa.
No. That's why.
If you are punished in Ghana, serve in Ghana, enjoy Ghana.
That's why in all my analysis, I'm being speculative.
I know.
I say assuming with that, because at the end of the day, as at now, I'm not aware of any charges.
I think they said in that case, for instance, she has been sentenced to 10 years in absentia. So far as she's not back home, I think that is held in abeyance. So until she comes, she will not.
Oh, serve. But that's what I want to. Maybe Amanda may give us a clarity.
Amanda, can we have someone? Can America open their jail for anyone that we prosecute here?
No, because they would have to undertake their own trial.
Okay.
To some extent, because I think, for instance, in Belgium, for instance, there was a case to do with genocide in an African country, and it hadn't been tried. So Belgium took the unique decision of trying it and then putting the person in jail. So I think the normal route would be for them to
extradite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think
if I'm not successful, then one becomes our next option.
You keep waiting.
But for me, as a citizen and of course as a responsible Ghanaian, I wish Mr. Ofori-Atta some way somehow
came back.
Owes us some burden of at least. I mean, he owes the state some sort of responsibility, even in the spirit of accountability, to avail himself to bring closure to some of these speculations.
Do you think his cousin, Nana Akufo-Addo, the former president, should call him to come home because this is a blot on his government? Because this is his key appointee.
So I want to share an experience that I had with the former president. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm unable to disclose the full details to you, but I was sent by my senior lawyer, TK, in a matter that involved one of President Akufo-Addo's cousin. And I just recall vividly the comment that he made. He said, she's an adult, and so she's responsible for her actions and inactions. So he doesn't understand why we have come to him to interfere. to intervene, because we felt that, I mean, for lawyers, you will use the route that will get your client results, so that you also get your payment and
he said, no, go and deal with it.
He said we should go and deal with it, and that's
so it's likely that he will adopt the same approach.
I mean, bottom line is that he was also right. Mr. Ofori-Atta is an adult. President Akufo-Addo said he's here. Whatever questions that he has to answer to the state, he's here. Or most of his appointees are also here. So I'm sure it is not out of place that Mr. Ofori-Atta avails himself.
Duncan, I'll bring you in, but let me bring the other lawyer. You are not learned. According to lawyers, you have not gone to school. Just say you don't know anything. So let me bring the people who notice, the learned people. Hamza Suhuyini is a member of the new National Democratic Congress communication team. Mischief in my head wants me to say Shadow Deputy Minister for Road, but I will not say it.
My goodness.
Lawyer, you're welcome.
I am not. I am. Thank you. Thank
it's
you.
It's mischief. It's not me. Don't.
Ignore the mischief. I live in. In fact, I have been living in that mischief for some time now.
So I'm not the first person.
Yes, I'm used to it.
But for what it's worth, you are more handsome than the deputy minister. So.
Oh, really?
See, now you're accepting.
I said really.
Don't let him know. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm surviving.
You're welcome.
It's not been easy, but I'm surviving.
You're welcome. You are a lawyer. We can try people in absentia. What's the fuss about getting Ken Ofori-Atta back home? Can't your government just go ahead? If you have evidence, which you should have by now, just go to court, prosecute him, and get the sentence through and move on. Then this whole spectacle about we want to bring him back, it's as if he doesn't come home, nothing can happen.
I think, Moro, first of all, good morning to
Honorable
Umaru.
Yes, Umaru.
First of all, good morning to my brothers in the studio and my sister, and of course our cherished viewers out there. And most importantly, to your production team. There's always the tendency for us to discount the work they are doing for all of us and on behalf of the country. So thank you for their service. But you see, on the issue of Ken Ofori-Atta, I am sure that many people would be wondering why we are still discussing this matter, especially when we have been dealing with it for some time now, since last year. But I have always argued that when it comes to issues of accountability, it is something we must never get tired talking about, because it is the bedrock of our democracy, the sustainability of this democracy that is founded on the 1992 Constitution. Because if we get tired of talking about issues of accountability, we are indirectly extending an invitation to those who are naturally averse to democracy to take the route that many of us would not feel comfortable with. And so it is important for us not to get tired talking about issues of accountability. And that is the reason why the Ken Ofori-Atta discussion is still critical and must continue to be critical even into the future.
Look at my face. That is not critical.
He has a right to move his head, please.
Having said so,
You face the camera.
Umaru,
Okay.
you see, it is true that under our laws, that there's the trial in absentia. I think Clause 3 of Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution makes provision for an accused person to be tried, even if the person is not before the courts. Also, I think Act 30 also makes such provision. Somewhere, I think maybe Section 256 and 70 or so also sets out some of the basis upon which such a trial could be sanctioned by the courts. And so it is permissible. But one important factor one needs to consider is the issue of notice under Clause 3, Article 19 of the 1992 Constitution. Regardless of where the person is, there will be the need for the prosecutor to ensure that constructive notice, or at least notice, is served on that particular person. So in the case of Ken Ofori-Atta, regardless of the fact that he's not in the country, you would need to put an application before the High Court and seek a directive from the court before you can actually proceed to bring notice of the trial to his attention, after which you can then proceed to try him in absentia. And my understanding is that these are the processes that are ongoing. And it is not accurate to say that he's not being tried in absentia, because the processes have started. I know I am not someone who believes in the office of the OSP in principle, and I think that I've been quite consistent when it comes to the office of the office of the Special Prosecutor. But Umaru, if you go onto their portal now and look at the case tracker, it has been indicated that somewhere in January, they had made that application to the court. It was granted, and they have since forwarded same, including the extradition docket, to the State Department of the United States of America. And they got notification from the State Department that those documents, including the extradition docket, had been forwarded to Ken Ofori-Atta. That is the inclination, that is the impression I get from the case tracker. As to whether or not it is accurate or not, it's another discussion we can have.
So we can then proceed with the trial?
Yeah, so clearly, they are proceeding with the trial. They are proceeding with the processes. Now, why is it that we are still interested in bringing him? That's the next question. In truth, the law also requires that simply because you have started processes to try the person in absentia, especially as a republic, does not mean that you should fold your arms. What would be the use of a judgment that you cannot enforce? So the responsibility is still on this government and the Republic of Ghana to ensure that while we are in court trying to secure conviction against Ken Ofori-Atta, it is imperative that we also put in motion actions that could possibly make it feasible for any judgment to be enforced against Ken Ofori-Atta. And so the government cannot possibly fold its arms and say that because we are proceeding in court, let's leave him there. Absolutely not. Who would serve that judgment, the verdict of the judgment, in case it happens in a way that many are expecting it to? Who will serve the term? So these are critical issues or layers that we must not lose sight of. And I think that that is what is informing the desire on the part of the OSP to have him in the country. Now, I have listened to issues since the news broke that he had been granted bail. And for me, I think I made this argument on another platform. It didn't come to me as a surprise. I've heard some of them argue that, oh, the judge said that he had not cited the extradition pack. This is conjecture as far as I'm concerned. I have not read the full judgment that granted bail. But what I know as a matter of fact is that even if the judge had cited the extradition pact, it would have been next to impossible for him to have been denied bail. Because if you know how the ICE works, ICE, in the United States of America, the grounds are quite clear. Whether the person poses a flight risk is an important consideration they take into account. They also look at the possibility of crime to public order, whether indeed the person's conduct could be injurious to the public order. And finally, the person's social relations. And they exemplify that by saying whether the person has a wife or a relative, a son or daughter in the United States of America.
A social connection.
Clearly, you cannot say that Ken Ofori-Atta does not have social connection in the United States of America when his wife and I'm told the son, who is also an adult, lives in the United States of America and is doing well. So that social ties can be traced. Again, as to whether indeed he poses a flight risk, if he is able to demonstrate that he does not pose flight risk, it will be difficult for the judge to say no. So that is why I believe that the bail was granted. With or without the extradition pact, the judge had his hands tied.
So it cannot be described as first round victory for Ken?
Absolutely not. It is normal. It is normal. If he decides to call it victory, that is, they are allowed to do so.
Okay.
But those of us who are familiar with those processes, we know as a matter of law that this is not strange. It is something that can happen. And regardless of the position of the Ghanaian government, it would be difficult for a judge to simply say that because you have an extradition request, I will not grant bail. And so I think that that was why the bail was granted. But Umaru, you asked my brother one critical question, and I saw how he was dancing around it. But it's the usual politics.
Oh, he's been very...
When you asked about Nana Akufo, why Nana Akufo has not extended an invitation for him, or Nana Akufo considers that he should consider the possibility of telling him, he said, oh, he gave a beautiful example of how Nana Akufo wants people to be responsible for their issues. But you see, the context is critical in this matter. In the case of the cousin you reference, Nana Akufo was right to have said so. But if you listen to the question Umaru asked you, Nana Akufo-Addo's presidency is at the center. Nana Akufo appointed him into office as finance minister. So it is not just a decision that must be left to only Ken Ofori-Atta to make. That decision Ken will make would have dire consequences on the legacy and record of the man who appointed him.
Even though he left that man's government a year before the election.
Precisely. Especially so when he sought for permission to travel from that man when he was still president.
Yeah, but the power ended January 6th.
It doesn't matter, Umar. You see, the letter seeking permission to travel was granted by Nana Akufo-Addo.
No, Frema Opare.
But that was an appointee of Nana, the chief of staff,
yes,
serving under Nana Akufo-Addo, on the authority of Nana Akufo-Addo, presumption of regularity. So what the chief of staff did was presumed to be the position of His Excellency the President, Nana Akufo-Addo. So the critical question many of us would ask is that what did Nana Akufo know that we did not know?
He knew that Ken was not well and he was going to seek medical
but we've all known that even at the time that his own party people were calling on him to resign, he told us that he was not willing to leave his children behind and that he was willing to serve to the end. Service is twofold, especially those of us in the political space. And one critical plank of true service is accountability. So you don't pick and choose which of the principles of service to apply. And that is what they are doing. And for me, it will be difficult for you to distance Nana Akufo-Addo from the decision by Ken Ofori-Atta not to appear
Hamza,
in this country
if we go
to
by,
face the laws of our country.
If we go by your logic, then we should hold former President, now current President John Dramani Mahama for Sedina Ationo's decision to run away and stay
that
in
is
America.
not accurate. You see,
it's the
again,
same thing.
no, Umaru, and I will respond to you.
There's,
why is not
there's
the
still
same
appointees.
thing? Well, I will respond to you. Why is not the same thing? At the time Sedinam was leaving this country, did she seek permission from President Mahama to travel? Was President Mahama the President of the Republic of Ghana?
No.
Did Sedinam seek permission from President Mahama? The courts granted her permission to travel.
Yes.
Is that not the case?
Yes.
So that is why the two are not the same.
But President Mahama could have also said, this is my
a
appointee.
relative of President Mahama?
An appointee.
No, I'm actually simple. Is Sedinam a relative of President Mahama?
I don't know about relations, but I know she was an appointee.
She is not.
And
So that's why I'm telling you that you are comparing apples with oranges. I am giving you a scenario where the two, Nana Akufo-Addo has as his cousin, Ken Ofori-Atta. He appointed him as finance minister, even when his own party at a point were calling for his, the party was calling for his heads, he said no.
So do you want,
he granted permission for the gentleman to leave the country.
Do you want Akufo-Addo? So do you want Akufo to intervene as family of Ken or a former appointer of Ken? Which one?
I think that his responsibility has to do more with former appointer of Ken, especially someone who have granted the permission for him to travel.
Works with Sedina.
No, I disagree. You see, you are not getting the logic, Umaru.
Yes.
I am telling you that in the case of Sedina, was President Mahama the President of the Republic of Ghana?
No, he was not at that time.
So what are we talking about? Did President Mahama grant Sedina permission to travel out of this country?
No.
And she decided to abscond?
No.
In the case of Ken, at the time he was traveling out, was Nanado not the president?
He was.
Was he not the one who appointed him?
Yes.
Was he not the one who granted permission for him to travel?
Because
so
he was not. Because he was not
two?
standing trial.
Who was not standing
Ken
trial?
Ofori-Atta was
So,
not
but that is the
standing
point I'm making. What did they know? That's why I'm saying that we can be allowed to make that conjecture.
But now President Mahama is in office. He is the foremost person to defend the constitution and protect this
Absolutely.
country. If he has found that there's someone who is in breach of the constitution and hiding, quote and unquote, in America, should he not take steps to bring him
And
back?
President Mahama is taking steps to bring not only Sedinam. If you listen to the briefings of the Attorney General, the government has taken steps not to bring only Sedinam, but also Ken Ofori-Atta. That is what responsible governance is about.
Very well.
For 8 years in power, what did they do to bring Sedinam?
Deputy Minister is okay.
What did they do? And so, Umaru, let me have my time.
But you had enough. You had more. Even Amanda, who has been quiet, is saying that you have had more
I was
than
thinking
that.
he will speak again.
Let me conclude.
Is it because he's in government?
Yes, so please.
So you give him more time.
Let me
Executive
conclude.
power.
So you see, for us, I think that the Ken Ofori-Atta matter is not just an indictment on the politics of the NPP, and this point I've made it severally too, and not just. I think that it is an indictment on the entirety of the political class, and we have to be very careful in this country.
So that's
the way we conduct ourselves. Because if we allow this kind of culture to fester on, the democracy of this country will be at stake. The citizens will lose confidence in us. The citizens will lose confidence in our politics, and the alternative, in the words of Gabi Ochudaku,
It's scary.
will be scary.
Duncan Amwa, let me bring you in. This issue of Ken Ofori-Atta, are we making a mountain out of a molehill where we should just proceed and deal with the matter? If he's found guilty, so be it. He remains on the books until he's gotten. If not, it's like more than a year, everything is Ken Ofori-Atta. Does it matter that we push this agenda?
Sanda, I'm a trotro driver. So I speak as the everyday common man out there. When you tune your radio in the morning, you want to listen to what is happening in Ghana. What you heard previously was a certain all-important finance minister who could even collapse banks. For me, that was my fallout with him. I have personal pictures. I have personal pictures with him.
Oh, he was your friend.
To a point, I felt ashamed to post them. I won't lie. Particularly when he collapsed banks that had Ghanaians working in there, that
that had breached some rules and failed to meet some set targets.
Sanda would have collapsed our own governments long ago if it was just about breaching rules. How many times don't they breach procurement processes? They even breach their own laws. If it is just about breaching, in advanced countries like the US, right? You saw the economic recession earlier, where the state had to come in to bail out some of their very major banks, right? We didn't see them trying to place them under, what do you call, receivership. But that was Ken's footprint. And when
to
he
protect
held,
the country, ultimately, that's what they
unfortunately, he's running from the same country that he sought to protect. And Sanda, that for me is the pain. That the man who wielded so much power, carried an axe, right, could chop off everybody, is now running from the very country that he used to call his children. You know, in an interview, he was asked whether he would resign after something, and he said, that will amount to a father running away or departing from his children. As a common man, I wonder what caliber of persons, right, have led this country. If you are not a person of conviction or principle, how did these people get into so high offices, right? Yes, how did they get into so very high offices, wielded so much power, right? Was allowed to do the kind of unconscionable, unthinkable things that happened here. And today, he is fleeing from justice. It's sad.
He said he's asserting his rights.
Well, Sanda, you see, if it is just about asserting rights, you could arrest anybody, even an armed robber. He will jump into Togo and say, well, he's got a right to probably...
It does happen. It does happen.
But Sanda, you see, this is a person who held the country's fortunes, right? Our finances. I would have wished, just like my earlier, the speakers alluded to, that he will be bold enough, right? Face the bullets, insist that, well, I have to take these painful decisions. These were the difficult choices I had, right? Give all of us some closure so that we believe that, well, you did things that we thought were wrong, right? But maybe under the circumstance, all of us could have taken similar decisions as you took. He does not want to give us that closure. He doesn't even think that to come down here to his own country to say, okay, I'm going to answer to your questions, because that's what a court normally would do. This is what you are being charged for, Sanda. You are being charged for armed robbery, right? All you need to do is to prove to them that, oh, well, I was asleep.
At that time.
At that time. And these are my CCTV bits. The court will be fair to everybody. But unfortunately, the myriad of corrupt, reports that you had, you talk of SML, you talk of all those reportage, right? For me, I was in ISE at the time trying to run a master's program when the National Cathedral issue came up. And you see how we sunk millions of dollars, right, into a bottomless pit that clearly did not manifest or turn into anything. And people who should be providing these answers, right, for that closure, they are fleeing. And so you wonder how people get into such high offices, what moral turpitude these people have over we the Trotro people. He was slapping taxes on us equally. As the finance minister, the baller tax, you recall. Even though we resisted, he had his way. Today, the man says that, well, he won't even come to go to court to plead not guilty. And I think that every right-thinking Ghanaian should be asking these questions. Setekwe, his predecessor. I think that all the challenges that the NDC faced in 2016, right, you could not hold the man, personally or summarily liable for some of the difficult things he did. We never heard him running. Even his deputy Attoforsen at some point had questions to answer, right? But somebody operated according to a strict dictates of the law that governs his office. Then his successor comes, and it's as though we had given a gun to a 12-year-old and trigger happy. Anything could go boom. People who had the UT Bank story, when I recall, how UT started earlier, and people, the importers in Tema, where I grew up, how UT helped them. Some would lose properties eventually because they couldn't pay and all of that. But that story was a remarkable story that a young Ghanaian could look up to and say, look, one day I could also build a conglomerate or a giant.
GN Bank.
GN Bank. Just mention them.
I traveled in 2018 across Ghana, and every nook and cranny I saw small banks, buildings.
And at a point,
Bank.
even secondary school graduates were able to go out there to do sales for a bank, right? They were building a certain portfolio or a career for these people. One man held an axe and chopped everything off. Today, he's being smart about it. He thinks that he deserves to be a citizen of another country. For all of us, we the downtrodden, the poor, the trotro drivers like myself, the question remains, are our leaders ever careful of, the post office, when I leave office, right, accountability scenarios? Or we just vote, they get into office, Sanda. Suddenly they ride very high horses. We cannot get anywhere close to them. They take very bad, distasteful decisions that affect all of us economically. And when you ask them to come and answer for what they have done, then they are fleeing justice. Sanda, it is annoying most of us. Each time we hear the name Ken Ofori-Atta in US detention, and then you go and hear that a Ghanaian who probably would have committed less, called Abutrika, right? Look at the sums of money that they probably say romance come and whatever. We are in a hurry to extradite our own, right? But the chief honcho, yes, and I know what I'm saying, the chief honcho, the chief honcho, he should come down. The chief honcho who superintended over our finances for close to 8 good years, right, is today absconding from, whatever, giving us an account. And for me, it's painful just as most Ghanaians listening to us.
Someone sent a message wanting to know what a honcho is.
Oh, a head honcho. The pack.
Okay.
There's a pack. And then the head who decides to pay for blood, right? He did all kinds of things. And I think that really, just like you said, I heard my brother quoting, he's taking the middle line. If it was him, he would want to come and answer to.
Yeah.
If his party people, if his family, if his friends could be candid to him, look, come. If for a reason you even have to suffer a jail consequence, it will be better to clear your dignity than to be roaming about in another country, right? A fugitive, running away from justice from your own country. What have you done that you are running from your own shadows? Please come back and provide answers. I'm sure the likes of UT Bank, GN Bank will be happy to hear why he did the things he did. I'm sure the younger generation who grew up to hear about receivership, right, will be happy to hear how we got here in the first place. And this didn't happen to the foreign banks, right? We have a lot of Nigerian banks here, South African banks. None of them had any issue.
Because they possibly were adhering to strict standard. Let's not pretend we don't remember what the verdict on some of these institutions were. Some of the verdict that were released, it was an ugly picture that was painted. And we were told that we were saved millions of cedis by the collapse of those banks.
I have done banking personally. Okay. That was the first thing I did postgraduate. A bank, just like any other institution, right? There are times you get certain things wrong. There are times you don't even balance, even at the banking hall. You came in the morning, opening balance, 12,000. You've done transactions, another 12,000, closing balance, 24,000. Then it doesn't balance. Things would happen, right? But common sense should dictate that when somebody has been on a wrong path and you want to correct them, you don't kill them.
Okay. Let me suspend your position for you. This is the big issue on 97.3 CTFN on Channel 1 television. We're discussing Ken Ofori-Atta, but there's something closely related to that. It has to do with the Office of Special Prosecutor. A promise by Nana Akufo-Addo when he was opposition candidate. He became president and his government sponsored a bill. Now we have an Office of Special Prosecutor with the first Special Prosecutor, Amadu, who resigned, and now Kisi Jabin. there was an attempt by the members of this government in Parliament to expunge the whole law. They wanted to go through the legislative procedure. The president intervened and said, no, let the OSP be. Then this week we woke up to news that the Deputy Attorney General, acting for and on behalf of the Attorney General, went to court and said the OSP law itself is an affront to the Constitution because it takes powers that it does not have. And I'm referring to Article 88 of the Constitution. So there are people who say this is an attempt to kill the OSP through another means and end up puncturing the anti-corruption campaign. There's another view that no, this is an unlawful thing that has to be overturned. Which of them should we work with? Let me start with Manasseh Azure Awuni. Manasseh, you are an anti-corruption guy. The OSP primarily is supposed to fight anti-corruption, or corruption, sorry. You have had cases. When you did the procurement authority matter, it was sent to the OSP. They were investigating. Now that there's a potential that this OSP may be collapsed, do you think that it also means this government is fighting anti-corruption institutions, or at least what the Deputy AG and AG have said means that the government does not want the OSP to exist?
Okay, thank you very much. But just permit me to respond quickly to what Amanda said about the political witch hunting and the NDC being desperate to bring Ken Ofori-Atta to prove a point. I must say that if you have followed the issues, political witch hunting should be the last thing to talk about. One, he is not being prosecuted by the Attorney General, who is an appointee of the President. This case is being prosecuted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. That Office of the Special Prosecutor was set up by a government that Ken Ofori-Atta was part of. The person who is heading that office was appointed by that same government, and the president at the time was Ken Ofori-Atta's cousin. We also know that if you take the SML matter, which Ken has been charged with 7 others, before these charges and whatever is happening now, his own cousin had asked KPMG to do an audit of that transaction after myself and 2 others conducted our investigation. And if you read that report by KPMG on the SML scandal, which Ken has been charged for, you would realize that laws were breached. And this was a statement, some call it a white paper that the president released, indicating that procurement laws were breached, the Public Finance Management Act was breached, and a number of legal and procedural breaches. This isn't someone else saying, this was the Office of the President headed by his cousin. If you take the 5 components of the contract, we had the transaction audit, external price verification, the downstream, upstream, and then the gold mining sectors. Every single one of them had problems. So after the KPMG report, it was only one of them that continued. There were 2, the transaction audit and external price verification. President Akufo-Addo's white paper actually said those services were redundant because the GRA had inbuilt capacity to perform those functions. How much did the nation lose out of that? Over 500 million cedis was paid for something that the GRA was already doing. So if you take all of these being said and done and revealed and confirmed by the president at the time, who is Ken's own cousin, then it beats my imagination that we would want to think that what is happening now is political witch hunting when there was this evidence. And just to add that, my sources close to President Akufo-Addo indicate that as far as this SML matter is concerned, President Akufo-Addo didn't know about it until our investigation.
Okay.
He's never been happy about it. And sources indicate that Ken Ofori-Atta and the president at the time, that's former President Akufo-Addo, are really not on the best of terms.
Okay.
So that is just to
set the records. Very well. That has been gotten clearly. Now, you have worked with the OSP for some time now. When you hear moves to collapse the OSP, first of all, there were earlier moves to collapse the OSP. People said that, look, the office has been useless. After how many years? They haven't even jailed a mosquito. So they are wasting our money. They should go. Now we are looking at the legal route being used to possibly collapse the whole enterprise called the Office of Special Prosecutor. As someone who've had cases there, first of all, as an ordinary person who has dealt with the office, do you think the office is relevant for us? Then secondly, the legal matters, I don't know what you make of that.
Yes, the office can be relevant, but as it is now, I have said it before, that if I were in government and I was corrupt, I wouldn't fear the OSP. I would fear the EOCO as it is under this administration. At least if you look at the work EOCO did last year, there is that seriousness. So if I were a politician in Ghana and I were corrupt, I would fear EOCO more than the OSP. Why am I saying this? You've mentioned cases that I've dealt with and taken to the OSP. So one of them, for instance, is the SML matter, which we petitioned the OSP. Before we even published that report, I called the OSP Director of Strategy, Samida Akun, who put me on call with Kisia Jabin and himself. And we did a conference call, and I mentioned that, okay, this is what we are doing. We are almost done, and we'll petition your office. So I just want you to know ahead of time. Before even the report was published, we petitioned 2023 December. There is evidence, including the OSP's own investigation logbook, that indicates, including the letters they wrote to me saying when they wanted to investigate or begin the investigation. They started in 2025, towards the end of January 2025. All of these issues about he took permission and all of that, at the time the man was leaving, there was no investigation. Nobody had written to him that we are investigating. So the question we should be asking is, from 2023, December, the whole of 2024, why did anybody not write to him or contact him?
Okay, Manasseh, in the early days, and let me say that I think I was the first journalist who ever entered the Office of Special Prosecutor. At the time, it was at Labon. It's a small 4-bedroom, or was it 3-bedroom house that the Akufo-Addo government set up for it to be used. And I remember I wrote extensively on it, lack of personnel, lack of logistics, and all of that. But over the period, the OSP now is housed in an 11-story building very close to the House of Parliament. They have recruited as many as they want. The budgetary allocations have been made. Are you suggesting that despite all of these, the Office of Special Prosecutor still is a toothless bulldog, or is a quote-unquote useless entity, and that EOCO is way better than the OSP?
I think the entity itself is not useless. Maybe it's about the management and those running it. They have made the entity appear useless. And I'm saying this because the...
Oh, Manasseh, you are saying this to your own former colleague at Joy FM, Sami Daku, and your own friend Kisi Jabin. I'm not particularly happy.
I'm saying they are making the office look useless. And I have, for instance, I have dealt with the office. I have been to court to testify for the office. So I'm not just saying this as somebody who has a grievance against the office. I'm saying this based on evidence. Look at the PPA contract for sale case you mentioned, you cited.
The one you did.
Yes, this was a 2019 investigation I did. Before Martin Amadu left office, not much was done about it. And at the time, as you said, there weren't people there, really there. And Martin Amadu had his own issues with the administration and perhaps how he also managed things. But before Martin Amadu left, he, together with the Auditor General, had gone through the bank statements of ABAJ, the PPA CEO, and indicated that he had about 4.5 million US dollars, 15 million Ghana cedis, and some 54,000 euros as cash deposits into his accounts, bank accounts, for the 1.5 years that he was in office. That was the work the Martin Amadu and his team did.
So they left the foundation. That's what you're saying.
They left the foundation. I had gone there to
for Kisi to build on.
Build on.
And nothing has happened.
When Kisi came, I was called again to go and then help with the investigation. They took my statements. I provided them with evidence. And the case eventually went to court, I think somewhere in 2022, I think around May or June 2022. The case went to court, and I was the first prosecution witness. I went and testified, and I was cross-examined for 1.5 years. The last cross-examination happened via Zoom whilst I was in school here in the US. Then during the cross-examination, and toward the end of my cross-examination, I realized that the OSP did not submit the evidence that the documentary evidence, because the case was built on a documentary I had done. The court admitted the documentary in evidence, but the pen drive the OSP submitted to the court did not include that documentary. The OSP said, oh, it was a mistake. So they reapplied to submit that documentary. Of course, ABAJ lawyers opposed that documentary, but the court readmitted it, and I was called again to be cross-examined for a day on that documentary. Now, just after that, the OSP drops all the charges and files again. There were 18 charges, 17 against ABAJ, and then 1 against his brother-in-law, Francis Ahin, and filed again. And when they filed again, there wasn't a single new charge or particulars of offense. And a very key charge, which was directly influencing a procurement process, which in the Shraj report gave evidence of how ABAJ did not go, he did not go through the board had made a decision, and he didn't comply with that board decision. And by not complying, a company that was not supposed to win a contract or be part of the lot was included. That company ended up winning the contract, and that company is his own company.
Okay. Manasseh, so I just want to, so that we can make progress. Your view is that the way the office is being run is not perfect. I mean, you are not the lawyer, so you may not speak to the legal matter. I want to bring in the lawyers.
I don't want to speak to the legal matter, but I just want to say that this same office, this is just this simpler than the SML matter. If you look at the charges and the people involved and everything, from 2019 as we speak, the case is still ongoing, and we don't know when it will end. So if you look at this and many other things that we have seen, I don't think that the office has been run properly. Can it be run properly? Yes. Do we need an independent office? Yes. But my conclusion is that if this is how the office is going to be, then we are better off as a nation
without
not
it.
having.
Very well.
But if it can be better, then I'll advocate that we have it.
Thank you so much. That's Manasseh Azure Awuni. Now, Article 88 of the Constitution is what we are using for this discussion. And if you look at 88.3, it says the Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offenses. And this is why the gentleman is in court saying that he thinks that that power is only for the AG and there should be no OSP. Now, the Attorney General, and usually Attorney General is just a nominal respondent in matters against the state, but in this instance, the Attorney General's deputy decided to write copiously and say that the OSP has essentially taken their powers away from them. Let me start with you, Amanda, and then we can go around the room. Is this an attempt to remove the OSP through the courts, or this is just in law based on your reading and understanding of the Constitution?
For my reading of the Constitution, any other person means a prosecutor authorized under the AG's constitutional supervision. So it's basically not a separate autonomous institution with an independent, prosecutorial will. And it's not a body Parliament can place beyond the AG's control. Strictly speaking, that's what the article is saying. On the other hand, though, I think we always have to look at the law in the context of reality. And the reality is that the OSP was created to cure a well-known institutional problem, which is ordinary anti-corruption prosecution through the executive can be compromised by politics or conflict of interest. So ultimately, you can legally abolish an institution and still politically damage your credibility. The question is not can they, it is how will it be interpreted, because anti-corruption institutions derive power not just from law, but from the public trust. So if you change the rules mid-game, people tend to question the referee, and control over prosecution is the most sensitive power in any democracy, because if we do weaken or remove this OSP, which is very likely just because of how the wording of Article 88 is.
So what is your thinking? Having read Article 88, do you think that the power of the AG is being taken and given to an external person, or you think that the two can work together?
It's been given to an external person, but the two can work together, and I think...
But do you see it as a usurpation of the powers of the AG? Because that is the crux of the conversation. Well,
the crux of the conversation is any other person authorized by the AG.
Yes, except that in this case...
Exactly. In
but
this
the OSP is not authorized by the AG.
Exactly.
The AG, with the OSP, we are told, is an independent entity.
Yes.
Unlike what happens with the police, the AG can ask them to prosecute for the AG, the EOCO, NACOC, and all those people. I think even the rent people and the SNIT people. But in this case, OSP is supposed to do everything independent. That is the issue.
Yes, and they were intended to allow criminal proceedings without having to seek approval in each case. But when you look at the strict language of Article 88, initiating and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences is the AG's job, basically. So I do think that, potentially they will, constitutionally, they will get through this in terms of they'll be able to win their arguments that, they don't really want to, designate this to the OSP. But it's always about optics. And I think optics-wise, in the reality that we've been living in, it's like you allowed OSP to take you up to this certain point where before you even came into power recently, OSP was building a lot of these cases, et cetera, and so mid-game, it's like, so while active cases are going on, it's going to look a little odd, and it's going to look like, well, isn't the timing extremely convenient that absolutely everyone that you say is guilty under the NPP reign has been wheeled out, probably 88 names altogether in one capacity or the other. And so technically, so does that mean when it's about to come to your turn, in terms of now people are going to be looking at the wider net of potential others, isn't it quite convenient that we are now looking quite keenly on Article 88 to wind down the OSP? So
for you, even if it is right in law, it is not right for the optics that the government should supervise the shutting down of an office like the OSP. That's your thinking? Very much. And we have a live issue at hand in terms of everybody on this panel has said that we have a fugitive at large in terms of in America.
But you see what I mean? Sometimes we have to look at what's going on in Ghana. You see what I mean? So the whole purpose of creating institutions like the OSP is that, particularly in fragile democracies like Ghana, even though Ghana has the longest democracy on the continent, it's still a relatively fragile democracy. There is always room for political ambiguity and so forth. And in that climate, as the IMF, I think, has noted, the OSP was created as a specialized institution to investigate and prosecute corruption, particularly since, people can sort of pick and choose which cases they want. It is argued. Do you see what I mean? So we can't, definitely, I think the AG's department, particularly when you look at the strict wording of Article 88, is going to get this through in terms of OSP is subject to them. You know what I mean? And if they don't give them sort of prosecutory power, it's not going to happen. Okay. And in fact, they want to maybe even absorb their budget and, keep on running. They're actually going to legally win on just because the strict interpretation of Article 88. But ultimately, I think that the OSP was there to fix a real institutional problem, and the danger of politically controlled anti-corruption prosecutions is a bigger problem for me.
Deal with that.
Yes.
Very well. Let me bring Kwesi. You were saying that you disagree. You disagree with her position, or disagree with the case before the Supreme Court, or do you disagree?
Not necessarily with their position. But you see, if we're applying a strict interpretation of Article 88, that is what any reasonable person, the conclusion that any reasonable person will come to, that chances are that their case will succeed. But Article 88 must not be read alone, beyond the fact that it even has to be interpreted purposively, especially 88, the subsection, no, even 4. Okay. 3 and 4, yes, let me add 3 and 4. But first of all, we have to look at for purposes of education, we have to look at it from the source of law and understand the hierarchy of law. That is where we'll be able to appreciate the inconsistency that we are talking about. If we look at Article 11 outlines the source of law, and of course it talks about the source of law shall include this constitution, and then it goes to talk about the acts of parliament, orders, customary law and common law and what have you. So, clearly it is this constitution. You also have to understand that in Ghana here, what we do practice is constitutional supremacy. So if you look at even Article 1.2, for instance, it talks about the fact that the constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and any other law that is found to be inconsistent with any provision of the constitution shall, to the sense of the inconsistency, be declared void. So we then have to look at whether the OSP Act is indeed inconsistent with any provision of the Constitution. So it's now juxtaposing the OSP Act with that of Article 88 of our Constitution. But first, let's look at Article 88 and what it's saying. And then we look at the title of the OSP Act. Article 88, and if I'll indulge you to read. Article 88 says that, 88.3, the Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences. And then 88.4 talks about all offences prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with law. So the literal meaning is that the AG has to authorize a person to go to court before such a person will be able to initiate criminal prosecutions. In that regard, you may, for instance, I have read portions of the suit. They say that the OSP is an office, but not necessarily a person. But if you look at the police has prosecutorial powers. Will you also say that the police is an office? Because even the police goes beyond an office. The police itself is even a service, not necessarily an office. So even the police has now even taken more dominance. It's even gone beyond what should constitute an office.
But it still has express permission from the AG to act.
Yes, no two ways about it.
And that is the thing you should be looking out for.
What it means is that then 88.4 purposively is talking about delegated powers of the AG. And not necessarily AG going to say that go and prosecute. That's why I'm saying that when you are looking at the interpretation of
so delegated power, which takes away your power?
It doesn't take away your power.
What I see with OSP is that the power of the AG to prosecute a certain kind of crime has been taken away.
No. So let's look at the title of the OSP Act.
Listen,
No, I'm coming.
Dr. Dominic Ayine cannot go to court and prosecute you for engaging in corruption.
I'm coming. No, he can.
He cannot.
He can. Let me show you why he
That's
can.
what the OSP will do.
No, not necessarily. Especially when we are using constitutional supremacy, the constitution is supreme. So, in essence, the AG's powers is broad. That's why it says in 88(3) that the Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences.
What's the long title of the Office of Special Prosecutor?
I'm coming. It's just to respond to your question. That
Okay.
the point is that it means that the AG's responsibility when it comes to the prosecution of offences, including corruption and corruption-related offences of politically exposed individuals and even civil servants, is broad. But this is, when it comes to the OSP, it's kind of a specialized field where they have to focus on corruption only, on the corruption-related matter. But let's go to the title. Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017. An act to establish the Office of the Special Prosecutor as a specialized agency to investigate specific cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offences involving public officers and politically exposed persons in the performance of their functions, as well as persons in the private sector involved in the commission of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offences. Now hear me. Prosecute these offences on the authority of the Attorney General and provide for the related matters. And I repeat that part again. Prosecute, so first they investigate. You prosecute these offences on the authority of the Attorney General and provide for the related matters. So
for that delegated power thing has been outlined clearly.
Exactly. So it doesn't take your power away from you. But so for instance, Umaru, this show can be hosted by any other person. Today you are hosting it. Then Sami comes in and hosts the show on your authority. Does that necessarily mean that Sami is taking your power? Clearly no. That's why I'm saying that if you use
is that not oversimplifying it?
No, that's what I'm saying. That you see, that's why if you look at the Interpretation Act, if you look at Tufo and AG, the court has insisted that the Constitution is a living organism, and then when you are interpreting it, you have to interpret it to also fit the reality of the moment. So, if you look at the literal text, you may come to the understanding that, well, the fact that the OSP is prosecuting and not necessarily going to the OSP and ask, the AG and ask Mr. AG, please, can I prosecute? And he say yes or no, then he's taking your powers. No. That's why you have to apply the purposive interpretation. If you apply it purposively, what that essentially means is that you have to then read 88(4) of the Constitution, which says that all offences prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the AG or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any law. Then you also have to then also juxtapose that with the title of the OSP Act, especially the last part, which says that prosecute these offences on the authority of the AG and provide for related matters. So essentially, it's talking about delegated powers. And the delegated powers does not necessarily mean that you have to pick a phone and go to the AG.
Okay.
And
so there can be a standing delegation.
It can be a standing delegation.
Like
it is the more reason why 88(2) and even 88(3) empowers the AG in that he is responsible for all criminal prosecution. Essentially, what it means is that if the OSP is in court today, the AG can walk to court and say that I'm not interested in the prosecution. I'm
not sure that's also in the... I think that the AG has been restrained from entering nolli prosequa. He's not. OSP
he's
cases.
Not. That probably then the Supreme Court may have to make a decision on it. He's not, because if you look at 88, there shall be an Attorney General. Okay, so let me read 88(2). The Attorney General shall discharge such duties of a legal nature as may be referred or assigned to him by the President or by the Constitution. 88(3). The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions. And remember, we are using constitutional supremacy. So this is supreme, and the Act of Parliament, which is the Act. OSP Act is what Act 959 is subservient to it. So it doesn't change the family. I don't see any inconsistency.
You don't
here.
think it's usurping?
It's just about delegation and the fact that we probably are using the literal interpretation of the law or the text. But if we interpret it purposively, we will then come to the realization that it's just a delegated power, like the way the OSP has delegated powers to the police, like the way OSP has delegated powers to. I'm not sure. Can EOCO prosecute? I know about...
EOCO does prosecution, NACOP does...
EOCO, NACOP and Co. They are all delegated powers. And I'm not sure they call Ayini in the morning and ask him that, Mr. Ayini, can I prosecute or not?
Hamza, you said that you disagree with the existence of the OSP. Is it because you think it is in breach of the Constitution or because you just don't think we need an OSP?
I think that my difficulty with it has to do with the shape in which it was designed and the political undertones that birthed the OSP in the
So not
first
the
place.
law building it, establishing it.
In a way, I have a problem with the contents of the law, but I don't think that my issues with the law has semblance with what's the name? With what the Deputy Attorney General is canvassing for, and I'll explain my point. But before that, Umaru, I think I heard my sister say or give the impression as though indeed the government is likely to give an impression that we are doing all these things because maybe the OSP might turn the guns on. And so that's why we have suddenly started making references to Article 88. That is not accurate. My sister can be forgiven if you have not been following the politics of this country for a while. But I remember quite clearly that in the 2016 general election, when issues of the possible setup of that office appeared on the top radar of the Nana Akufo-Addo campaign, many of us in the National Democratic Congress, and indeed at the time our leading members, cautioned against the approach Nana Akufo-Addo wanted to adopt. And if you do a simple search online, you would also come to the realization that in 2017, when the bill was being introduced in Parliament, the then minority leader, now Minister responsible for education, Haruna Idisu, raised issues the Attorney General is raising today. He indicated that in principle, the National Democratic Congress was not against the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor, but the difficulty of the party had to do with the conflictual nature that would have had with Article 88 of our 1992 Constitution. And so we have been very consistent, and we did not start raising these legal issues simply because we're in power. We've been quite consistent as a party, as far as that office is concerned. It is also as a result of that even upon assumption of office for his second term, many communicators of the NDC thought that it was important for us to reset even the OSP, because the way it was formed was not intended to pursue any national objective, but it was simply to respond to the political caprices of Nana Akufo-Addo in the simple sense that he has fulfilled a campaign promise. And that is not how you build state institutions. Now to the issue of the legalities that the Attorney General is raising. I can understand the point my brother is trying to make. Umaru, I have read that act. I have read Article 88, and also to a very large extent Article 289 of the 1992 Constitution. And one thing stands out clearly. Under Article 88, no matter how you do the dribbling, you simply cannot prosecute without the authority of the Attorney General. No matter, that's the law. But is it the case that the OSP Act in its current form gives the impression that the OSP can actually proceed independently? That is a question we should be asking.
But EOCO proceeds independently.
No, please. My brother, be patient. Is that the act? Is the act giving that indication? And my brother did the simplest form of interpretation. I am trying to just add to you to the point you made. It's not that I disagree with you. So be patient. I want us to avert our minds to, I think, Section 4 of the Act, of the OSP Act.
Okay.
You read, even before that, let's look at Article 88, which says the Attorney General, that is Clause 3 of Article 88, the Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of all criminal offenses. Then 4 says, all offenses prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any law.
Delegated.
You understand? No, the power to delegate is there. Attorney General is arguing that this OSP cannot proceed without that delegation. And that the impression being created that it is independent of the Attorney General is wrong in law. Now, the question I'm asking is that I have read this is the position of the law. The Act in its current form, does it disagree? Let's go to Section 4 of the Act. Mandate of the office. Umaru, it says, Section 4.1, except as otherwise provided in the Constitution the office is not subject to the direction or control of a person or any authority in the performance of the functions of the office.
How do you understand
except as otherwise provided in the Constitution. And I already read Article 88.
So it takes you to 88.
So clearly, the exception is what? Article 88. So I do not agree.
He's confusing himself.
No.
Except as.
Let the man land.
No, except as means that the Constitution has already provided for it.
No.
So are you listening to me?
No,
he's still on top.
He has confused himself.
He has confused himself. He's doing wrong interpretation.
You are not
patient to
He's
listen.
not agreeing with Semsai.
I'm telling you that I'm not agreeing with the table to the general. You don't listen. That's the problem with the
You
MPP.
proceed.
No, it's not MPP. This is
Stop being condescending and being polite on the table. If you want to be condescending, we can all do it. Be polite on the table. Let's have an intellectual discourse. Stop this with
He
your
knows that I'm more polite on this show than you because you are just jittery. Even
Stop.
though I'm even trying to make your point in a better way for you. You think that necessarily because we belong to different political parties, we must necessarily disagree? What kind of orientation is that?
Hamza,
Stop
so
being
you're
condescending.
Is it,
and be polite.
anyway, Umaru, let me proceed.
So you are saying that the Constitution is, so when they say subject, you have to go to what the subject is, and the subject here is the Constitution. The Constitution says you cannot prosecute without AG. So the act itself is deferring to the Constitution.
Absolutely. My position is that, so I do not think that if you look at the content or the nature of the act, it disagrees with Article 88 of the 1992 Constitution. Indeed, the act under Section 4 confirms the point that the office needs to get the clearance from Attorney General. But I think the bone of contention, so when I hear the argument being made in Parliament that, look, the office is unconstitutional, I don't think that the office is unconstitutional. What is the bone of, what appears to be the bone of contention actually, Umaru? What appears to be the bone of contention actually is how this act is operationalized in practice. That is what I suspect.
Hamza, I just maybe if you could continue reading the 4. Read 4.2. I think it gives you more meat to make your argument.
Which one? 4.2, yes. So it says 4.2, subject to clause 4 of Article 88. And what does clause 4 say? Clause
4 of Article 88. You have 88.
It says, all offenses prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any law.
Good. So subject to that.
So subject to that. Again, it brings the office...
And it says what? The office shall...
Subject to clause 4, the Article 8 of the Constitution, the office shall, for the purposes of this act, be authorized by the Attorney General to initiate and conduct the prosecution of corruption and corruption-related offenses. So again...
So this is a direct delegation.
Indirect. So that's why I'm telling you that I do not see contradiction.
So contradicting.
But what is it?
He's agreeing with you.
He's agreeing with me, so why was he fighting with me earlier? You were fighting. You didn't understand where I was going and you were fighting. That's your problem. And that's why I was telling you to calm down.
No. It's not that you are making your case well.
That's why I'm telling you that don't come on the show and proceed on the basis that we are from different political. That's why I cautioned you.
No, it's not that you are making your case well.
I was trying to make your argument in a better form for you. That's why I made that. That's the reason why I made that point.
You proceed.
So, Umaru.
Yes.
You see, so in principle, if you look at the text of the Act, and Article 88, I see that the office is in the, what's the name? The office is under the authority of the Attorney General.
Subject to the authority.
Yes. But the question we should be asking is that, is it simply in text or the Attorney General's problem is in practice? And I suspect the Attorney General's problem is in practice, especially the way this current OSP is going. He's creating the impression, if you remember the first interview the Deputy Attorney General granted, where he even had difficulty in even getting access to documents on Ken Ofori-Atta's extradition. The Deputy Attorney General indicated their frustration in dealing with the office. I suspect that the current OSP is behaving as though he can prosecute in his own authority without engaging the office of the Attorney General.
So instead of talking together, they are not.
Precisely. So I suspect that is the reason why that the Attorney General is arguing this way in court, so that at least the Supreme Court will bring finality to the matter
and say
by indicating that, look, you cannot proceed per your own act
On your
you
own.
cannot proceed on your own without a delegation or authority from the Attorney General.
So this
You
is
are
an attempt.
subject.
This is an attempt to streamline and give a directive to whoever is in charge of the
I
OSP.
suspect so. I am not part of the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
But that is my suspicion. But because in principle, if you look at the Act of Parliament and that of Article 88, I see that the Act has been designed in such a way that it is still subservient to Article 88.
Yeah.
It does not seek to amend Article 88.
Okay.
That's what I think. And so we need to appreciate it. Like we said, the decision would be taken by the judges. But that is my suspicion. And Umaru, it's still Umaru. That is the same thing. I don't know why
I'm going to bring an action against all Dagomba people who call me Umaru.
That is Umaru. I don't know why you have a problem with it.
It's Umaru.
My brother. So, but is it?
I'll start calling you Hamza.
So that is the position of the law on this matter. But
on the practice,
in practice, I suspect the problem is in the practice.
Okay.
This OSP is proceeding on the assumption that if I start an investigation, if I'm doing something, I am autonomous. The Attorney General cannot interfere.
Then there's a problem with the whole law creating.
So
OSP.
that takes us back to my initial submission about the politics that birthed the OSP's office.
Because
and that is why this country, we need to be careful and we must listen to the words of politicians. And that's why I said that it was simply designed to pursue Nanado's political objectives, but in reality, it succeeded in achieving nothing. Remember that in opposition, they told us that they wanted a body independent of the office of the Attorney General. And we told them that per Article 88, you would need to amend the Constitution to achieve such a body. When they brought the bill before Parliament, our leaders in Parliament then insisted that for you to get it in the shape and form that you wanted, you needed to amend Article 88. They didn't.
At the same time.
They didn't.
He has
Umaru.
so much time.
And today, as we speak,
Umaru,
they
this is the
succeeded
second
in
time.
creating an impression that they had created a body so independent of the office of the Attorney General that even the current occupant of that office has been deceived by that deception that was driven by the government. That is why there is this confusion around this
The
table.
Act doesn't carry anything like independence.
Meanwhile, the Act
So,
in itself,
it doesn't carry
meanwhile,
anything
the
like
Act in
independence.
itself tells you that it is
subject.
simply a creation of another desk for the Attorney General's outfit. Nothing special.
So the OSP is just like a Department of Public Prosecution.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mandated with corruption-related issues.
Okay.
Even in that,
So we
it does
shouldn't make a
not
monster.
preclude the Attorney General from still proceeding on issues of corruption.
And Attorney General can also
That's why
do
many of
knowledge.
us were arguing that we have to look at the law and design it in such a way that it becomes a department under the Attorney General's office.
But not as an independent office. So
Because it is not.
There's
It
no
cannot.
problem with
The
this law.
Act says it's not.
It
So
is not
why
and
the-
it cannot.
Why the fuss?
Okay. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa. Franklin, you're welcome to the big issue.
But Umaru, do you have the same time with Hamza? It looks
Okay.
like he has different time.
Okay.
No, I just wanted
Why
to be
are you usurping my powers as
no, at least for clarity.
I am giving him preferential treatment.
At least for clarity and avoidance of doubt.
I am giving him preferential
Then
treatment.
Ghanaians are watching. You have to be careful.
No, you were interjecting. I wasn't.
Because he was making your argument for you, I gave him more time to
You
make
went-
your
I said
argument.
Ghanaians are watching. They also have questions.
Duncan Awa.
I think that the learned people have spoken.
So we should leave it like that.
Let's leave it like that. But the truth again is that the OSP, like Hamza said, has proceeded as though it was simply autonomous and could act anyhow, anyway. I do think that if Article 88 is clear and succinctly puts the powers of prosecution under the ambit of the Attorney General, it should stay that way until it is amended. I do not see how another creature or creation of law by Parliament would now seek to undo what
Has been
the mother constitution has already been very categorical about.
Right.
So prosecutions can be carried out, but with the express permission only of the Attorney General should that be done. And I think that though my learned people here tend to want to suggest
You're not even
that
qualified to call them
they
learned,
don't,
though.
I'm qualified to call them my learned people. They are learned. I am not. I'm a trotro driver, and I keep. But I side with what the AG's suit is seeking to do, because without that clarity, whether today it's Kithi or tomorrow it's Kwame or Kofi, that confusion would continue to persist, where people come assuming that they now have prosecutorial dictates, and they can do so unilaterally, even without recourse to the AG. I think that clarity is important to be brought.
Right. We'll take a break. Just take one or two of your messages. Chris Akume is a learned person. He's a lawyer. And he sent a message and he says, after listening to Manasseh, I have come to the conclusion that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is a toothless bulldog and will not bite. It is not worth maintaining it. Why maintain an office which cannot serve the purpose for which it was created? That's Chris Akume sending that message. Jones Aduboyinla says, I think the Ofori-Atta Akan drama must stop. All Ghanaians want to hear is Ken Ofori-Atta is brought to Ghana to answer for his stewardship period. This is a big issue on 97.3 CTFM and on ChannelOne television. When we return, we'll talk about another thing, mining concession that has been given to engineers and planners. What the fuss about that? And then how we are dealing with the fuel prices that may or may not go high, depends on how the conversations in Pakistan end. Please stay. Yeah, welcome back. This is a big issue on 97.3 CTFM. Now, Goldfields Ghana Limited, we know that company has been in Obuasi for many years. And then it also operates a mine at Damang. The government announced that their concession will not revert or be returned to Goldfields when the lease expires, and that actually was what happened. We are told the government wanted local content, 100% Ghanaian ownership in whoever was going to run that particular mine. There were 6 companies that put in a bid. It was reduced to 2, and 1 eventually won. Now, it wouldn't have been a conversation because this is a normal thing. A bid is opened and people will tender and then an ultimate winner. But when people notice that the company that ultimately won is a company owned by the president's brother, it became a lot of conversation around whether it's state capture, it's conflict of interest, and all of those matters. So that's what we put on the big issue today to discuss. I'm going to start off the conversation with Amanda. Amanda, you do your law practice in the extractive industry too, not just in Ghana, I think in Sierra Leone and other places. So you understand how these things work. What is the Damang story? And what did we get wrong or right in what we did?
Well, I think what we got right is that, the minister could have used what's called the Section 14 route, which means, instead of opening it up to fresh competition, he essentially, had an open bid and people put in their bids and they had to have a certain amount of money and everything appears transparent, So that is, on the face of it, it looks good. And so Goldfields, they lost the renewal, and then the asset reverted back to the state in order for the state to just open it up for bids. So on the face of it, absolutely everything looks fine. He's not a political officer in terms of, he's not in office. He's the brother of, the president, etc. And he's crossing his T's and dotting his I's on the face of it. Although I think, it further until Parliament speaks, the contract is not fully secure. It is provisional in terms of political terms. That's fine. But I think in the context of this, being a typical lawyer, we always have to look at the precedents in terms of where has this happened in Africa before and what does history tell us. So countries like Angola, South Africa, DRC, Nigeria, it appeared very sort of competitive, etc. For instance, in Angola, the richest woman in Africa at the time, she was the daughter of a very long-reigning president, Isabel dos Santos. She built a massive business empire. Everything was state approved. She was appointed head of the state oil company, and yet under the new president, You know, her assets have been frozen globally, allegations of conflict of interest, preferential access, and state capture. So you see, so basically what I'm saying is that this will go through. He's dotted his I's, he's crossed his T's, he's done absolutely nothing wrong because he is the brother of a president. He is not, you know, in office, etc. But history tells us that once government eventually changes, it may look slightly different. And I think in South Africa, we had the Gupta family. The Gupta-linked companies won contracts across energy, transport, mining, and many deals had formal approvals. But, you know, afterwards, it wasn't quite the same. And DRC, also mining contracts, mining assets allocated to politically connected entities. The deals were legal on paper, but you know, after transition, there was reviews and renegotiations under new leadership. And of course, Nigeria, we have oil blocks and political exposure. And, you know, legally, you know, they got the license, etc. Afterwards, there was scrutiny. Cases like OPL 245 led to global litigation and investigation. So
why are you driving to it?
So what I'm driving to is that under the climate of a political leadership, particularly when a contract ends, and the minister doesn't just give it, he makes it an open bid. It looks transparent. It is transparent in terms of he has the money to do this. He's put in the paperwork. He won the bid. But he also won the bid because we can't divorce it from the fact that he is also sitting under, you know, his brother's leadership. So even though he's not in office, even though he's done all the right paperwork, it's just really important to look at how this has happened before in other parts of the continent.
Are you saying that you see the process, it was transparent, but you still have suspicion in your
I have
mind?
absolutely no suspicions about it because of his history as a businessman.
Okay.
So because of his history as a businessman, this is not something he's just woken up, he was into media or something, and then all of a sudden now he's, you know, this guy, he does business. So there's absolutely nothing suspicious about this, but the climate in which he got the contract was good. For instance, even Angola, the person I referenced, Isabel dos Santos, highly...
Jose Eduardo dos Santos.
She's an amazing woman in terms of, I think she, London School of Business, where she met her husband.
So you're saying
you know what I mean? So she was formidable and extremely good and deserving of all those contracts.
So you're saying that there's history where relatives have been given contracts based on merit in other countries, and so if Ibrahim Mahama gets a contract in Ghana, it's on merit. It just happens that he has his brother being the president. Am I getting your...
Yes, I'm just saying that we have to look at the long game, that he will win this contract, and he will win it particularly because he's got business acumen. And this is what he does day in, day out. And he's been doing
What about when the critics say this is state capture? Mahama is selling the country to his brother.
Well, it wouldn't be for me to sort of be sued for...
No, I'm saying if people say that, is that something you agree with? I mean, this is your opinion I want. I mean, it's not...
I mean, I could see how the average Ghanaian person would say that because, you know, the argument perhaps could be from the other side, playing devil's advocate here, is how many contracts did he win when he wasn't in power, even though he's very good at his job. And it's quite convenient that the highest contract you could possibly win, you've just won within the first year and a half of your brother. You know, I mean, that's playing devil's advocate. But I do know he's very good at business. This is what he does day in, day out. But a lot of people would say that, you know, this is the returning... this is a returning president who might not be able to come back again just because of the constitution. And is this an opportunity for state capture? I don't know. But I do know it was an open bid. I know he had the money to do it. He had the paperwork to do it. And this is what he does day in, day out. And so he, on the face of it, won it, just like Isabel dos Santos was a highly accomplished London Business School daughter of the president. And she worked for her money. I mean, in terms of like, she was doing a lot of the work. But history also tells us that because of the level of the contract and because it's now going back to Africans, you know, per se, Ghanaians, that when in 3 years' time or 7 years' time or 13 years' time, as you guys would say, 13 years' time that the next party comes in, I don't know when they're going to come in. I think these are one of the things that they will look at. You know, it could be 3 years, it could be 7, I don't know.
Or 30. Did you say 30?
I mean, I don't know about these things.
The woman said 30. She said 30. I'm just asking her because she said 30.
I said 13.
13. Oh, okay.
As we both know, being students of African politics, there has never been, I mean, it's always 8 years, 8 years. I don't think anybody has broken the 8.
Not yet.
Yeah.
We attempted.
We will attempt, and I'm sure this time around.
Yeah, but so I mean,
the good people of this country.
It's interesting, but definitely, I mean, he will have it, and I hope he utilizes it very well, because with the next administration, I'm sure this is one of the first things they're going to target.
Duncan,
Sanda.
Can a relative? So we saw under Akufo-Addo where if people related to him are given a contract or do business, is an accusation that a state capture. The same thing can be said now, or a president's relative is free to do business which business is previously done and is allowed.
Sanda, I would deal with track records.
Okay.
If you ask me, if you had a situation where Kweku Kwarteng sitting here is a timber merchant, and it's Kweku Kwarteng.
Kweku Kwarteng is an MP.
Kweku is my friend, actually. The Obuasi one. Yes.
He has taken a nationalistic view to a lot of issues since his party lost.
Good guy. Good guy in a day.
What can I say?
No, it's true.
Wait,
I've told you.
Sanda. Or let me take Suhuyini as a brother. He's a timber person. That's what we know him to do.
As a brother.
You had to interject at some point, so I've dropped you. And then we know that is what he does, right? And then I go after my own political career, become the president. And then there's capacity. He's demonstrated that even whilst I don't exist as the president, he wins his other bids in other countries. Then suddenly I'm the president, so we say he cannot work in the jurisdiction within which I am the president. And the excuse again is that state capture. It is important that we do not allow families to own Ghana, or else we all become slaves. It is important. But in a situation where there's demonstrable competence or capacity for a Ghanaian to take over something that had been done over 100 years by foreign companies. I have an inclination as a Ghanaian to wish that there's local content properly done. And unless, of course, there's contrary evidence again to the extent that there's been a local company or other companies whose bids probably would have stood better than what EMP had put together. I would hesitate, in thinking that this is state capture. I would repeat this, Sanda. My inclination would be to first go for a local company that could also do the mining. Why local company? When the foreign companies come to do their mining and they declare profit, the profits would stay in those jurisdictions from where their shareholders' fund is coming from. So they would retain their profits in wherever they are coming from. But if it's a Ghanaian company, right, whatever profits or whatever incomes or revenues that are generated, a lot of it will go into paying the Ghanaian workforce. A lot of it would also go into even building infrastructure in hometowns of people who own a part of that company. So my inclination is to go for the local company. And again, I am repeating that in the absence of contrary evidence to say that, look, we had 5 bids, right? There was Hamza company that put in maybe a $400 million bid to the state. EMP did 300, but we've given to EMP. If that happens, I would condemn in no uncertain language. But if it is the case again, that he has demonstrated that he can handle the Damang mines, and then he has the resource, he has the capacity, the banks are probably pushing or pulling cash to support that effort, I would say, so be it, go ahead and work. But just as Amanda said, the trap there is in when NDC or his brother is no longer in power. How we victimize businesses. I was talking of the UT Bank experience. Yeah. It's a Ghanaian company. They wouldn't always get it right. There are times even taxes, they will be behind time, or there are some taxes that they would not have paid.
But let's give them special.
No, not special. You correct them when they are wrong. That is the only way companies like Guinness and the others, Coca-Cola and the others, have been able to stay for, decades. Even beyond the lifetimes of people, the founding. But in Ghana, once a political party changes hands, we want to collapse every other business that was started or had gained some momentum. We've done that to Zoom Lion. We've done that to a lot of the companies in Ghana, a lot. And every time we would color them politically, use a sledgehammer and collapse them. What we forget is that once you collapse those companies, a newer one comes in, takes over, does everything. Another 4 years, it is also collapsed. So we don't get sustenance and we don't build giants. Dangote we are all proud to mention Dangote, right? The state has helped Dangote in no uncertain measure. But when you come to Ghana, what does the state do oftentimes? It is rather targeting businesses whose track records, right, you can boast of. It will target them. Look, the Apia Minka and those companies back in the 80s, Apino Soap. I don't know. For some reason, we don't sustain anything politically. And I think that it should be worrisome for we, the younger generation. Because tomorrow, it could be my brother Hamza or it could be Kwesi, right? Mm-hmm. Whose brilliance at business, right, has brought him something. Then we use a sledgehammer to take them out because, he's MPP. Mm-hmm. Oh, this one is NDC. Oh, there's CPP in power now. If we allow this guy to thrive, he will use the money to sponsor his political party. So let's kill him. I detest that kind of practice. And I think that if indeed EMP, from all these years, with mining concessions in Sierra Leone and the other places, have demonstrated that they have the capacity to work. Mm-hmm. Let's encourage them. If they go wrong, right, correct them, help them to become better. So that tomorrow we'll not be talking of just Anglo Gold and Newmont and the likes, right? We have the mines, and we cannot boast of an indigenous company that has been able to sustain its weight with the likes of Newmont over the years. It's a pity.
Over these decades.
Over these decades. And I think that if EMP is able to execute the Damang, let another local company, right?
Take another one.
Also take another one. And over time, I would want to see all the multinationals leave. Over time. So that you can say that, look, if you go here, this is a Ghanaian person doing ABC. But in recent times, Dr. Sledge or whatever the name is, Gold Board, fight left and right. I don't know whether it is sometimes, I don't know, but Sanda, the political climate and the two politicians sitting next to me, maybe they should make a commitment to all of us. Build businesses. If you find that they are using too much of their money to sponsor politicians, let GRA go after them. But do not stop them from getting local contracts. Because if they don't get it in Ghana, should China give them contracts? No. If they don't build capacity and muscle, should Cote d'Ivoire give them contracts? No. We are in a hurry. We are in a frenzy to kill everybody. I heard, was it Mr. President or somebody make a statement that the big push, some of the contractors, it doesn't matter whether you are MPP or NDC. It should be the right way to go. Mm. But you hear a section of the political divide insists that you cannot give jobs to MPP contractors. If the person has capacity, so be it. Okay. Build capacity so that tomorrow, if Sanda also is a contractor, right, and my party comes, PPP or CPP or GMPP or whatever, and Sanda can fix a road corridor and do it to perfection.
Give it to
I
him.
will not have to go and bring the Chinese
Okay.
and send all my money back to China. I don't know, but
Okay.
this is what we on the streets, that's what we think.
Thank you, Duncan, the man representing the trotro drivers in
And
my
the
studio.
streets.
Kwesi, what is wrong with giving this contract or this concession to ENP?
I mean, I want to take just a minute to respond to some of the earlier comments that were made.
But they were not targeted at you.
No, not necessarily.
Okay, that's
just,
fine. Go ahead.
just to contribute to the conversation. I think Hamza made a very wild allegation that Akufo-Addo created OSP to satisfy his own political egos.
Okay.
I feel it was unfair. He had the right motive, the right intention to fight corruption, because at that time it was very topical, and Ghanaians indeed bought that. The fact that you create an institution and the institution is not living up to the expectations that you had wished for that institution does not necessarily mean that you created it to satisfy your own egos. President Mahama started Sanda, Jida. I'm sure it was born out of clear and good intentions, but the performance was nothing to write home about. I'm not sure anybody would today point a gun at him. Just like he said he was going to 24-hour economy, what have you. After now, it's become a white elephant. Nobody's saying that. Nobody.
But a white elephant, the 24 hours is not a tangible thing, so you can't.
using the word elephant.
No. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, figuratively. It's not a tangible thing.
24 hours is not supposed to be tangible,
Yeah,
so
but
you can't say.
experience it. Experience is also intangible. We should also experience the intangible results.
They've started 24-hour markets. They launched it recently, I think. I saw
We've
some-
not experienced that, so
Okay,
we can
that's
speak to
fine.
that. But let me first of all state my, on the subject matter of EMP and the Damang, let me state without any equivocation that I have my personal biasness towards protecting local indigenization and protecting, of course, local businesses. I have a personal biasness towards that. If I have my way, of course, it doesn't also mean that I jettison competence at the altar of a local enterprise. But of course, if I have to select between a Chinese company doing well and a Ghanaian company doing well to award a contract, chances are that I'll focus 100% on the local or the Ghanaian business. So I have my personal biases towards that, irrespective of which political divide that it falls. And of course, I must also hasten to add that I also have some, I've not met Ibrahim Mahama before, but I have some respect and admiration for his personality. I mean, I'm not so sure what exactly it is, but I have some, at least I believe he's carried himself so well. He's done well in the business field. So I may be influenced by this biasness, of course, out of admiration and the fact that I also want to protect local businesses. So for me, if you use the right processes to get what you want, I'm not so sure it is so wrong. It's just like when I was campaigning for Ken, assuming Ken had won and become the president, and tomorrow, for instance, appointed me in any capacity to serve elsewhere. I am not sure the logic is that because I'm close to him or have a relationship with him, I do not have the competency to be able to deliver in that field. And then if I don't have the competence, who should have that competency? Out of about 6,000 appointments, are they saying that only Kwesi because of his proximity that he has with Ken or Obama?
His own is not proper.
Yeah, his own is not proper. And why should I suffer because I know Ken? Or why should I suffer because somebody's brother is the president? But you see, I mean, the reality is that it's also based on the politics that we've had in this country. The kind of politics, the sledge and burn politics that we've been doing to ourselves. And especially conversations like this then gives us a reminder of what happened in history, the historical antecedents. Recall, Brian, for instance, arguably is owning the biggest hotel in Africa. And recently, if you recall, just about 2 years ago, even 1.5 years ago, the Snitch Hotels, how it was demonized, and of course, the whole subject matter was weaponized against Akufo-Addo, against Bawumia, and the whole government has to suffer same. And so, if we indeed held that principle, I don't see principles should be seasonal, so that all of a sudden, when it comes to Mr. Ibrahim Mahama then we are now looking at his competency and his track record without according same respect and same recognition of competency and track record to Brian Champon when it came to his hotelier business. Because he has a track record of also being hotel businesses, and of course even beyond that, even in IT. So, but we've had a politics where we destroy ourselves, we weaponize basic and reasonable matters that we should have attached some sense of consciousness and reasonability. And then when the paradigm shifts, we quickly then want to play the ostrich game. So that is where I find a problem. But beyond that, I think on the substantive matter, when Ghanaians call for transparency on the selection process, I do not think it's something that is out of way or is misplaced. Okay. We should have, you are cutting me. and go and give all the time to at least we should have clarity on how
I need to respond to
we should have clarity on how EMP was selected, whether the bidding was indeed fully competitive, or I mean, kind of some stage management.
It was live on TV. That's as competitive as can be. You saw it.
I mean, sometimes you can stage manage some of these things behind the scenes.
Were you stage managing things when you were in government?
No, I am talking about the reality that we all know.
And I'm just asking, because you say you can stage manage. I saw it on TV. It looked black and white to me. If you're
so you agree with them, it's fine.
No, I'm just saying that it looks agreeable. Is there a reason not to agree?
That's what I'm saying, that at the end of the day, it's a process. Process can be stage managed. It's like public procurement. Indeed.
You can stage manage public procurement. Kwesi, be careful though.
So you staged the expired food saga when you were a spokesperson at the Ministry of Education?
No, there was nothing like an expired food, at least for the records. You can go to FDA. No, you can go to FDA. FDA has a records. There's nothing like an expired food. No, there's nothing like an expired food. I am saying that if you all want to play the ostrich game, fine. It means that you don't want to be patriotic. No, can I proceed?
No, relax.
Very well.
You said we stage manage procurement.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So procurement can be stage managed.
So you mean all the process we go through, the contracts that are awarded, is just...
I am not saying all of them. I'm saying that it can be.
Sanda, let me help you.
It can be. No, I can make my case. No, I can make my case.
He said he doesn't need your help.
I can make my case.
The man said he doesn't need your help.
I would prefer that in a state managed to benefit
the man said he doesn't need your help. So let me interrogate you.
That's also about illegality. If you state managed, that also about illegality. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the motive. It doesn't matter the motive. I am saying that is that not the reason why the minority score and the call by Ghanaians that we need full disclosure, we need better and further particulars.
But the full disclosure,
we need openness. That's what I'm saying that. You spoke about the fact that says companies bid.
Yes.
And I'm saying that, do you know how much all of them bid?
Did you ask?
No. You are a journalist. I'm not sure I should be answering you this question.
They went into a business deal and they didn't succeed.
The business deal was not their private business deal.
No, I'm saying that they didn't succeed. And they haven't come to complain that they were unfairly treated.
Do you know that the mining site is not for an individual? It's not a private owned mining site.
It's for the state.
It's for the state.
Yes.
So when citizens are saying that matters like, you see, Sanda, let me be very honest.
We have a mind, and we said we want people to come.
You shouldn't appear to be defensive.
I'm not defensive. I'm just telling you what is in the public.
As taking the poster of even speaking for EMP.
No, I don't speak for EMP. EMP has a spokesperson. No. You see, when you say things like this, then you're impugning my integrity, and I will not attack you, but I'll let you know that you're in the wrong. The government said we are not going to give this mine to any foreign company. That was the first announcement. They said local companies, please bid. 6 companies went to bid. Out of the 6, they gave us a criteria that they were supposed to meet, and they said that they failed on certain technicalities and even financial issues. At the end of the day, they said 1 company has won. The other 5 companies, they have spokespersons, directors, and any of them. None of them has come to my media house to say to me that we were undone, we were not properly allowed to go with our bid. You have no evidence to show that they were not treated properly. Now you are saying that there should be some evidence given.
Good PR work. I hope EMP comes and pay you. But let me proceed. Let me proceed to the point I'm making. Good PR work. I'm coming. Good PR work. You see, what Sanda is failing to acknowledge is that you can be transparent without being accountable. That is the first point that you
Was
have to
that what you
acknowledge.
were doing when you were in government?
No, don't impugn me. There is a subject matter that we are discussing.
Yes, and the subject
matter.
Kwesi, you were in office just 2 years ago.
Can I? Okay, I didn't. Now let me proceed.
No,
let me proceed.
no,
I was a
see,
spokesperson. I couldn't even have the power to make some of these decisions. But I'm saying that at least I've answered you. Can I proceed?
No, you see, you say a lot of things.
The interjections.
I'm not interjecting.
From the host too can also not
You
be
have
fair.
called me PRO of ENP. And that is not proper.
And that they should even pay you.
You were paid as a PRO for the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
Have you seen my appointment as PRO of ENP?
Look, the work you are doing, I am recommending you.
You are recommending
I'm
me?
recommending you.
Or you mean you are commending me?
I'm recommending you. At
recommending
least it's what that they can.
Please submit.
I am saying that the narrative that you just give is just a narrative of attempting to be transparent without necessarily being accountable. Okay. Just like saying that this is water, right? On the face value, this appears to be water. But until, for instance, we test the content to see that it contains molecules of hydrogen and oxygen, we will not be able to come to the conclusion that it is water. So when
you see, you are a lawyer.
I'm not sure you've distorted any other person's flow like mine.
You see, you are a lawyer.
Did you bring me here to abuse and embarrass me? Is that why I was brought here?
There should be a reason. There should be a reason to doubt the content of the bottle. For which reason you go ahead to do the test?
I don't necessarily need to have a reason.
You just
as a citizen, I can call for it. Because it's a state asset.
But I'm
I
saying
can demand that you should be accountable.
On what basis?
Because it's a state asset.
Yeah, but you know what to
you
do.
Can't
the right to information.
And say that because
the right to information law allows you to seek that information.
This is not right to information office. This is a radio and TV station. So when we are here to make advocacy.
Yeah, but have you gone to apply for the information?
I don't need to do that before I speak about it. And I'm saying that calls that there should be transparency and full disclosures, it is not out of place. Okay. It is in, you see, especially when in this matter we have political proximity of the president's brother. And especially juxtaposing that with the political environment that we have. When people make such calls, they do not necessarily need to have evidence. They don't have evidence. The evidence is with the state. So when we call for full disclosure, it is now left for the state to come and make the full disclosure and say that, well, company A bid with A amount, company B bid with A amount. And I'm saying
that has happened on national television.
Do you know the amount?
But they give us a 500,000 threshold.
Let me even tell you.
They said that it's 500 million. That's a threshold. EMP brought 505 million. Have you brought any company that brought above 500 million, which has been denied?
Is that not the reason
that was what the government did?
Yeah, but the is that not the more reason why we need full disclosure? Do you remember the merchant bank and the 14th issue?
But if it was on TV...
People had brought more money yesterday, state did not go for that.
But if it was on TV and you're still asking for food, what else is more disclosure than on TV?
You see,
or you didn't see it on TV?
Sanda, that is why I also want you to calm down.
Yeah, I'm down, very down. I drank porridge and I'm taking water.
No, I gave an analysis of how you can be transparent without necessarily being accountable. So what you are describing is an attempt to be transparent, but the disclosure will give us the better and further details. Okay. You see, I have been involved and I've had the opportunity to witness this open and competitive bidding and the details that accrue to it. There are a lot of,
and you know that it can be cooked.
We are not in heaven. Oh. We are on earth.
So you're thinking that this one too is cooked.
We are in Ghana. Value for money. I'm not saying that. I don't think it's fair. Okay. I'm saying that it is only when we get. It is only when. No, it's because the host keep interjecting. This time around, the host is even behaving more than a panelist. And then when I bring it out, Sanda takes an offense to it.
Because you accused him.
I accuse him. Anyway, Sanda is fine. I don't want to be proceeding because it looks like I've been brought here to gag my presentation. Why is that good?
Sanda, I gave it time. Are you done so that I go to the...
I'm landing. I'm
waiting for you, land, please.
I am landing. We need to understand the value for money analysis. We even need to understand the state, the assets that we are transferring, whether or not they are even in a good condition. I don't think this is an information that is so much of a secret that should be discreet, that people should be defensive to the extent that even hosts will now even attempt to defend such positions. You should rather even be interested in joining people like us to say that matters and concerns being raised. People have raised concerns. People have raised concerns that this may be the last opportunity to create a lifetime wealth.
I don't believe in that because I've already spoken about my personal admiration for Ibrahim Mahama and even local businesses. But it is incumbent on all of us, like you are calling Ofori-Atta to come and respond, to at least give full disclosure so that we bring a closure to this matter. And we know that this is indeed a clean day. I'm not sure this is so much of a big thing.
Are you done?
I'm done.
I want full disclosure on how come you got only 8 votes when you ran for parliament.
It doesn't matter. Maybe one day you should also run and let's see.
No.
The
last time I got 2 votes.
First of all,
I ran for election, I got 2.
Sanda, if you want to be condescending, we'll be doing that. Because that was how you started. When I came, you failed in this, you failed in this. That I ran for election and lost. And I followed Kenneth Ofori-Atta and lost. And so what?
But it is a matter of fact and record.
I am saying, I'm telling you, as an individual, I have improved myself. I'm doing so well.
Yeah,
I take risks. I take risks. Some I win, some I lose. It's very normal in a natural order of things. But you have chosen to be consistently mischievous. And today we are playing the same cards with you. You take offense to that. You are the PRO of EMP. Take it.
So I should stop reminding you that you lost the parliament election.
It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. Even the whole party lost. But Mahama lost with about 1 million votes. He's back. It doesn't change anything.
That's true. The alone has done 17 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Hamza, please, let me hear you.
See, this matter is an interesting matter. Especially, I think that from where I sit, I appreciate fully what Ibrahim Mahama would be going through. Because of, yes, I think I appreciate fully what he would be going through. Yesterday, I was having a discussion with someone, and I told someone that he may not say this publicly, but I think that anytime the NDC is in power, especially with his brother as president, he puts in more in his businesses than he ordinarily would in an NPP administration because of the likely interpretation that people are likely to put on his effort. Indeed, simply because of the fact that he's the president's brother. I tell people, even my own big brother, who is a deputy minister, has no real authority of his own. When I go to him to seek for even a job, he would have to walk to his boss for his boss to approve. On a daily basis, I get calls from people on the faulty assumptions that even I can grant them jobs at the Rules Ministry because my brother is there as a deputy minister.
It's a chance for you to make money.
No, it is not. Interestingly, it is a burden on me because prior to him being there, I had my own connections at that ministry.
Well, now
I had people who were willing to help, but all those people today, if you walk to them, they will tell you, go and talk to your brother, who even in reality cannot grant me a job. And if he does, it will raise issues. And so I've kept a distance from that place because you people don't know me as a contractor. So tomorrow if you wake up and you hear that I'm doing contracts, you begin to ask questions. But I was in that ministry before. That's why I'm familiar with. You see, Kwesi. So that's why I'm telling you that I can understand Ibrahim's difficulty, in all honesty. Umaru. But the question we should be asking is that was the whole process done in a way that is acceptable? As for the concerns Ghanaians are asking, I always try to create a distinction between the NPP and the good-intentioned Ghanaian. Ghanaians wanting to know whether indeed Ibrahim Mahama's engineers and planners got this on merit or simply on the basis that the brother is president, they are justified. I can assure you that it is not just the NPP supporters who are interested in knowing whether this was done transparently. There are many level-headed minds out there who would be interested in that question. And so in our response, I am not going to adopt a combative nature in my engagement as far when it comes to that, because I respect those views. And I know His Excellency the President respects those views, and the government entirely will respect these views. What are the issues? Is there the potential of conflict of interest? I say no. Umaru, if you look at all the companies that tendered, and the criteria that the committee set up adopted in terms of company profile, your expertise in the field, financials. We are dealing with 4 companies. You said 6. We are dealing with 4 companies that submitted bids.
So it's no longer 6.
You see, therefore, we have Vortex Resources Mining Group. We have Engineers and Planners Limited. We have Health Goldfields Limited, Mariposa Mining Services Limited. These are the 4. And if you are a member of the committee, Kwesi, Vortex Resources Mining Group was established or formed in 2024. Engineers and Planners Limited was established in 1999, almost 3 decades, or 98, almost 3 decades. We have Heat Goldfields Limited, established in 2024. Then the last company, Mariposa Mining Services, was established in 2023. So if you are a member of the tender committee.
Is the criteria about date?
No, it is about company profile. And company profile, you take into account how long they have been in the industry and their method. So I'm telling you that even on the first criteria alone, engineers and planners stand tall because it was established somewhere in 1998 or 1999. Again, then you come to experience as far as that Damang mine is concerned. That was also another important factor, aside the financials, that the committee considered. Engineers and planners started engagement with Goldfields as far back as 2002, when His Excellency President John Agyekum Kufuor and the MPP were in charge of managing this country. That was when that agreement with Goldfields started. So it tells you from 2002 to now, over 2 decades, engineers and planners have been there with Goldfields. And they understand, and they were an operator of Damang. Somewhere subsequently in 2016, it was handed over. So and they became the lead operator.
So Hamza, the profile is rich, the experience is there. But the ownership is what raises the question.
But that's what I'm responding to.
So that when it comes to the room where the decision is taken, the ultimate decision is made.
I will get there, Umaru.
Because I don't have a lot of time.
No, but I'm looking at the time you give, Mama. Also, at least. Please.
No, I'm not giving. I know. I'm not
getting something. I'll do all in measured time. So, Umaru, this is. But these points are important. That's why there's a need because of the issues of conflict. Now, so that the Ghanaian people and those objective minds who are listening will know that even if they were part of such a committee, in the interest of the Republic and the viability of the mine, they would have resisted the temptation to give to any of the other 3 companies. They would have stayed with engineers and planners. And you cannot possibly call that stage management. In 2024, when Goldfields wrote officially to the minister responsible for lands and natural resources for no objection to deal with engineers and planners, the then minister responsible for lands and natural resources, Honorable Honorable Abu Jinapo, wrote giving approval and raising no objection. You know that that decision couldn't have been taken without cabinet and that of the involvement of President Nana Akufo-Addo. So if engineers and planners at the time was not qualified, I'm sure that the government of Ghana, under the MPP, would have raised issues of no objection. Because this whole arrangement predates the presidency of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. These are the facts. Now, the politics of it. And so when you look at it, I don't see any conflicts of interest. Unfortunately, the cost implications of this is actually on Ibrahim Mahama. Because he would have to do so much work, like I indicated, because his brother is president, to justify that he won this on merit. When we all know in our heart of hearts that this gentleman won this project on merit, not because his brother is president.
I just want to ask you this, and you answer that in 2 minutes so that we can move on. Kwesi has referenced the Brian Champong Snit Hotels matter. If he was wrong at the time, why is it right this time?
So that was where I was going to. Umaru, I have given you the picture in terms of expertise of engineers and planners. It is important for us to create that distinction. In the case of Brian Achampong, it would have been extremely difficult for you to avoid issues of conflict of interest. Why? We had him not as just a businessman, but as an appointee paid by the taxpayers' resources, who was privileged because of his position to sit in cabinet, to take decisions on behalf of the good people of this country. And a company that he had interest in.
The company had a separate legal entity.
Okay, when you were speaking, I was quiet. Please, please. A company that he had interest in was engaged in an attempt to acquire state properties. In politics, there's something we call the legality and political principles or ethics. So even from the look of it, ethically, it was terrible. And people were justified to raise concerns. That's why I told you that even the Ghanaians out there who are interested in knowing whether Ibrahim's own is influenced by his relationship with his brother are justified in demanding so. Again, Ken Ofori-Atta. Ken Ofori-Atta was an appointee of the government and the finance minister, and his businesses, Enterprise Insurance and Data Bank, were winning contracts. We had every legitimate reason to complain. You know Bamti?
No, who is Bamti?
Nanado's brother, blood brother. He's in the oil and gas sector. He did all the major contracts under Guel when his brother was president. Did you ever hear the NDC organizing press conferences about Bamti? Because Bamti was never an appointee. Today, Gabi Ochudakos, who is also the president's cousin, has launched what they call the Africa Prosperity Networks. Haven't you seen the last summit that they held in this country? Chief executive officers and ministers of state of this government attending that program and supporting
the president was
even
there,
the president himself last year and this year the vice president went to support.
Yes, incidental benefits on the government.
You see, so but that gives you the orientation of this government and the questions of consistency that we have demonstrated even in opposition. So we are not a political party that simply raises issues and change our sports when it suits us.
Thank you, Hamza.
And you cannot possibly liken the Ibrahim Mahama engineers and planners situation to what we witnessed in the case of Brian, in the case of Ken Ofori-Atta and co. Because this is entirely different. And Umaru, I can assure you that if the MPP or any other person discovers something untoward, especially in relation to this deal, His Excellency, knowing His Excellency President Mahama, he will not resist the temptation to act to protect the national interest.
Thank you,
even at the cost of his familial relationship with his brother.
Let me go
That is a marked difference. And that tells you the leader we have today and the kind of confidence that the Ghanaian people have in him. Not like what we saw, and even today people are running away from issues of accountability.
The president brother is nobody.
Let me go to Manasseh Azure. Manasseh, you are in the anti-corruption space. Does this deal smell like, you know, the expression they say, smell like a duck or look like a duck? Is it a duck?
Well, I speak with evidence. And I don't have evidence as of now to say that the process was rigged in favor of Ibrahim Mahama. I don't have evidence to say that there was manipulation. So I cannot pass judgment on that, especially when the processes started long before. But I want to make a few points clear, listening to the argument for or against. And I have been accused of targeting businesses that are doing well. And someone mentioned Zoom Lion just this morning. Sanda, if you look at the poster I used for my campaign when I was contesting the SRC presidency of the GIJ, I wore a tie and then a shirt. And then during my national service, I made a decision that I was going to go African print all the time. So when I'm in Ghana, you can see me from Monday to Sunday. I'm always in African print. And the decision I made was not because I'm Pan-African. I don't subscribe to some of the Pan-Africanist ideas of supporting everything African and then condemning everything West. But the decision was based on the fact that if I bought a shirt sewn in Ghana, even if the material wasn't produced in Ghana, and the shirt is sewn in Ghana, at least I'm providing someone a job. So I am consistently, even my wedding day, I wore African print, of course, with the permission of my wife. So I am a staunch supporter that businesses in Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, should be supported. But in these discussions, I just want to make a point that we should look at national interest. We shouldn't just be emotional. If we are to just say, give an example that these mines, if a foreign mining company is operating and is giving Ghana $100 million every year as tax, and then we give it to a local person, the local person is operating and we are getting $10 million every year as tax or revenue to the state, which one would I want to win the contract? I would go for the foreign one that would give us more money. So, and sometimes let's also look at the approach. If you look at a company like MTN, which has been bastardized and all of that, you have every corner of this country having an MTN employee, an MTN mobile money vendor, or all over. So the contribution to the state is important. So when we are discussing these issues, I want us to not always be emotional. We have attachments, and of course, if a Ghanaian company will succeed and then let's say a foreign company will succeed and the benefits will be equal to the state, I would go for the Ghanaian company because the profit remains here and more people are likely to be engaged here. There is a history of a certain Consolidated Diamonds in this country being given to the Jospon Group when at the time there were superior bids from elsewhere. The fact of the matter is that the Jospon Group, which is the Zoom Lion conglomerate, took these mines for years, even the money that it was supposed to pay to the state, and then develop it, the amount of resources it claimed it would bring, for which reason it was given the mines. That did not happen. Things got worse until a year or two, a few years ago, under Asamoah Boateng's management of SIGA, they had to take it back. So the point I'm making is that when we are doing these discussions, let's by all means advocate that what remains or what is for us, it is best when we can have local companies extracting it. The profit remains here. It helps our GDP, it helps our economy, it helps our city. But let's look at a bigger picture. And finally, to the issue of procurement, when we were debating or talking about the
road contracts,
yes, sole sourcing on this show, I made a point that competitive tendering does not always guarantee fairness. And I agree with Kwesi Kwarteng that they can be manipulated. I have no evidence that this is the process, but I'm just sharing an experience and what I know from the sector. Even the criteria. Today, for instance, if we are to give a major sanitation contract, the criteria can be set such that only one company in this country, Ghana, can qualify. So all of these go into how things happen. And I think appreciate the position Hamza has taken, that people deserve to know if this had happened anywhere else in the world. I wrote a piece some time ago on the aircraft saga, and I said that, look, if you have the student emerging first in your class, and then everybody in the class knows that, okay, this student has something to do with the lecturer, no matter how brilliant that student is,
will be suspected.
Likely to raise
Very
suspicion.
Well. Thank you.
So
Thank you,
these
Manasseh.
are normal, but we should not just say because of suspicion, everything is wrong.
Okay.
I think it will be good to judge this contract or transaction based on its merits and the facts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's Manasseh Azure Awuni. I want us to quickly end the conversation with the recent decision that was made by Cabinet on fuel prices relating to Iran. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, so I want to give you all 1 minute each, and I'll be happy if you can grant me that. I'll start with Duncan. That's your area. The government approach, is that a way to save us?
There's a lot more to be done, but this is a good first step. There's a lot more to the extent that you cannot just shave off taxes and expect that just because the taxes are gone, everything else would fall in place. The heavier liftings that ought to be done has still not been done.
But as government, you only control the taxes, and that's what you can lift. Or the other things government can control that they have not touched.
You control the resiliences, you control the buffers, you control the strategic storage position of a country. And I had advocated for this long ago, that you cannot continue to use BOST the way you have used BOST, where we allow BOST to trade, bring product, sell, and declare profit, and then we clap for BOST. The United States can talk of resilience because it has what it calls the Oklahoma cushioning, which is the strongest buffer in the world. They would store products sometimes for as good as 4 years to 40 years. And so when there's a lot of hardship, all the United States government has to do is to put out strategic reserves. We have depleted ours. We don't have a single liter. And so you would hear the conversation of, oh, we have stocks, 5 weeks. But those are commercial or trading stocks that the government can do nothing with. The BDCs will bring in their cargo. They brought them in not to hold them as stocks. They brought them into trade. And so whatever the prices are, they would sell for those commercial prices. And Sanda, I think that beyond the discussions of taxes, which we are submitting a paper for already, we are already looking at 4 of the key taxes. We are not asking for all of it to be scrapped, but a component of it to be reduced so that overall we are looking at about 1 cedi 27 pesos that could be shaved off. That is a good first step, but that on its own cannot solve the fuel pricing crisis situation confronting us. I just showed you something that says that the US suspects China is already shipping ammo to Iran. So it's an indication that the war is probably not going to be over because proxies will be joining. Russia is suspected to join. So we should brace up for the long haul. And I don't think that just the taxes would be the solution for the long haul.
Thank you.
Although it's a good first step.
The government's announcement after the cabinet meeting is that they are scrapping off taxes. Do you think that's enough? Duncan thinks otherwise, but does it look like the government knows what it's doing?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it provides a temporary relief, but sustainability is the question. Because like Duncan even said, the war doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon. Assuming even the war is to end today. Remember, Trump himself has said that it will take about 10 years for Iran to rebuild. And the Iran, as of now, if we also look at the public pronouncement that they made, they said, even if the war is to end today, the Strait of Hormuz is never going to be as it used to be.
It's still not open.
As of now, it's even still not open. But I'm even looking at situations where even if the war is to end today,
they are put toe boot there.
They are put toe boot there. It's even never going to reverse, or things or situations are not going to be the same. And of course, that part is the part that gives about 20% of the world's oil, about 20 million barrels per day. So yes, in the short term, it may bring some reliefs. I'm just looking at even if government even makes such measures and cut taxes, whether or not even it will be transferred to the final consumer, especially those of us who use structural.
I'm sure the NPA would manage to regulate that.
They will attempt to, but you know, Ghana things may never go back. But I mean, come to think of it,
we increase things, but we don't reduce things.
Yeah, come to think of it, I just want to expose the government's inconsistency. It's surprising that all of a sudden a war that they said wars do not have impact on, or global shocks do not have impact on our country, all of a sudden
making policy shifts to align with certain global shocks. It means that sometimes we should also reduce playing politics and weaponizing every situation to our detriment. But I'm sure subsequently we should be looking at sustainable ways of, and of course, alternative ways of power generation.
Thank you. Hamza, Ukraine, you said it was nothing. Now you are saying Iran is something.
I think, again, that tells you that even though the MPP succeeded in mismanaging our economy, they are also hell-bent on mismanaging opposition and the role of opposition. Yes, quite clearly. I say so because, you see, they set their own questions, Umaru, and they proceed to answer them. Any follower of our politics knows that as a political party, when they were in power, we never discounted the effect of international pressures on our local economy. And indeed, if you go back and look at when President Mills was elected, somewhere in 2009, and the first budget that was presented, I think the first chapter, we gave an overview of the impact of the financial crisis on our Ghana's economy. The first chapter of that budget. And we've been quite consistent. Yes, with President Mahama as Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. What we raised issue with when they were in power had to do with the fact that, look, we indicated that the way you had managed the economy, that is what has brought us here. If you had managed the economy better, we would have had the shocks to be able to manage the pressures of Ukraine and COVID.
You dismiss the shocks.
And you dismiss, but please, mine is not yet up to a minute.
Yes,
but it's not up to a minute. Mine is not up to a minute.
You are taking Amanda's
So,
time.
but it is important for us to to put these people on record, to let them know that this politics of lies, where they set their own questions and proceed to answer, and on the basis of that say the NDC is inconsistent, is something we all must expose and condemn. The World Bank representative, Laporte, had indicated that prior to COVID,
she's the only woman
prior to COVID and Ukraine, Ghana's economy had shown signs of distress. Hamza, is that not the case?
Amanda,
you don't like women.
These were the things the NDC was talking about.
Amanda, please conclude for me in 20 seconds.
Now you are saying I don't like women because you
are
Let's hear Amanda.
I mean, for your audience who might not understand what we're talking about, President Mahama has basically
20 seconds,
done something, fuel reduction, which is a 4-week window, and it's cut government perks. The advantage of it is it reduces pump prices immediately. It eases inflation pressure and, you know, buys political and economic time. You cannot, however, subsidize your way out of a global oil crisis. And the danger is not scarcity, it's affordability, and this policy buys time, but time is expensive.
Very soon to be scarcity, but let's leave it. Very soon to be scarcity. In fact, we are getting to scarcity. But that's fine. Unfortunately, time is scarce for me. Panelists, let me end the show. Can I end my show? So, time is scarce on the show, and that's where we end it. We'll be back next week. Thank you for joining the Biggie Show.